On the very same day I was determined to leave with nothing but fight for custody of my daughter, my 15-year-old daughter, brainwashed by over-the-top romance novels, smashed a Maybach at the mall entrance and splashed soy milk from her cup onto the other person's Armani haute couture suit. She stomped on the man's crocodile leather briefcase with her white sneakers, insisting that the man had just looked at her in the car with ill intent. She was warning him that just because he was rich didn't mean he could act recklessly. On this very day, at the age of 43, I stepped into a police station for the first time. On the same day, after signing countless contracts, I signed a compensation payment whose amount paled in comparison to the business orders I had handled before, yet it made every day that followed feel like a heavy debt to bear. And my dear daughter, who once looked down on my busyness of working hard to earn money and support the family, now looks down on me just as much for working hard to pay off her debts. My mom shouldn't smell of money, she should be like Aunt Jean, full of floral fragrance. That's when I realized she had already, under her father's guidance, come to know his long-cherished love, Chinui. Even the bossy romance novels she read were bought for her by Chinui. Even if you get custody of me, so what? I'm going to live with Dad and Aunt Jean. I hate you. She left with a suitcase full of things I had bought for her, cursing me all the while. All she left me was a $7 million compensation bill and a chilling sense of despair I couldn't shake. I gritted my teeth and tried to get back into my old line of work, but starting over at 43 is no easy feat. While trying to secure a project on a construction site, exhausted, I missed a step and fell from the 17th floor, dying instantly in a pool of blood. When I opened my eyes again, a document appeared before me. "Mr. Lee, just sign here, and on the last page here." The lawyer's voice rang in my ears. Pulling my wandering thoughts back, my gaze gradually focused on the divorce agreement in front of me. Fortunately, it hasn't been signed yet. Everything in my mind felt like a daydream I had during the day, so real, yet shattering my long-held perceptions. "Redraft it, Mr. Lee. Is there an issue with the content? We've followed your previous instructions." "No problem." I changed my mind. I lightly scratched the document in my hand with my fingernail, my thoughts racing as I strategized a plan. "Call Wang Hunan over." "What? Oh, right, I'll do it right away." The secretary was taken aback when she heard me address Manager Wang by his full name for the first time. Her professional instincts immediately told her that a storm was brewing. "Divide the assets 9-1. The daughter goes to him. Draft it again as quickly as possible. Mr. Lee, would you like to reconsider?" One is really, I thought Mr. Lee had changed his mind to protect his own interests, but he only wanted 10%. It was truly frustrating to see him not stand up for himself. 9-1. I'll take care of it right away." The lawyer quickly left the office, this time, without having to hesitate or worry about my daughter's emotions. My mind instantly became unusually clear, thinking that I had refrained from having a second child for so many years to avoid her suffering any injustice. In her eyes, it turned into me being selfish and not wanting her to have siblings to keep her company. "Now that your father has made one for you, you're happy, aren't you?" Thinking about Chinui's so-called ex-husband's child, who is only half a year younger than our child, I feel particularly disgusted. Now that I think about it, Wang Hunan cares more about that child than he does about his own daughter, saying he has no identity issues. Who would believe that? Yet I foolishly believed that he was genuinely sympathetic to the child's loss of a father, which was why he treated the child so well. Now, looking at those somewhat similar features, one can't tell how many years this concubine has been kept. "Xiaoguo, are you looking for me?" Wang Hunan was sitting in the office with his legs crossed, sipping tea. When he heard the secretary say she was looking for him, he thought the divorce agreement had finally been finalized these past few days. After all, with his beloved daughter on his side, he was likely to get all the assets. Over the past 2 days, the lawyer has been assessing the property and discovered several unexplained expenditures after you joined the company. I paused for a moment, watching his back grow increasingly rigid, his hands instinctively clenching into fists, his expression unusually tense. "Oh, so there really are some, then, Xiaoguo. Those were all expenses required for company socializing. Didn't I tell you about them before?" This nickname, which we've used since college, now sounded particularly harsh. "Then please, Manager Wang, provide the complete details of the socializing projects and expense invoices. After all, these are company expenses. Since we're separating now, we should keep things clear between public and private matters, right?" Wang Hunan's face darkened. He had assumed I would handle all this for him, and that he could just sign the divorce papers directly. I never expected that now I would have to make up for the public funds. I never kept track of how much money, big or small, I had taken. Now, being asked to provide invoices and Expense details. Where on earth am I supposed to find them? Little Guar, look, at the company. Please call me General Manager Lee. After all, we are discussing official matters now. Wang Hunan frowned tightly, seemingly not expecting me to pull this move. Although after our divorce, the company will still need to be managed by you. These employees have all come step by step, and the procedures can't be disrupted. It'll be easier for you to manage in the future. I softly cast out a bait. If you bite too tightly, the fish might not dare to take the hook. That makes sense. Well, then, have the finance department calculate it. I'll cover it personally for now. Wang Hunan thought to himself that since the company would soon be his, it was just a matter of putting this money in and taking it out again. I have to coax her into signing the divorce agreement first. No matter what a coincidence. I feel exactly the same way. Then I'll have the finance department calculate the list. But these are all minor matters. Let's get the main thing done first. I pushed the newly drafted contract from the lawyer over. Let's split the assets 90-10. Since Tingting doesn't like the house we're living in now, I'll take it. What 9-1, isn't it about getting a clean break? His voice suddenly rose with emotion. Then, as if realizing he had spoken inappropriately, he quickly stopped. What's going on? Didn't Tingting say her mother agreed to leave with nothing last night? How come it's changed to one achievement now? Isn't Tingting supposed to go to province to study art? One achievement can be used to pay for her tuition. Don't you have any objections? I stared at him intently, and he seemed hesitant, not agreeing immediately. You see, I already said your dad refused. This time, you can't blame me. I suddenly pulled out my phone from my thigh, which clearly showed it was in a call. Daddy, you actually refused. I've been helping you all along. Humph. A pouty voice came from the phone. You see, when interests become your own, who would be foolish enough not to fight for them? Oh, my sweet baby, how could Daddy say no? If you want the whole world, Daddy will buy it for you. Wang Hunan was truly afraid that his daughter might say something rash in a fit of anger, so he quickly agreed. 2 achievements, 2 shares. Anyway, he still gets the biggest portion. Will Daddy come with me? A sweet, delicate voice came from the phone, a tone she never used with me before. Of course, once Daddy finishes his important work, I'll go with you right away. Okay, I knew Daddy loved me the most, unlike someone who's always saying they're busy. Next time, I really wanted to ignore her blatant sarcasm toward me, but my heart still ached involuntarily. After all, she was literally a piece of my own flesh. No wonder people say daughters are dad's little cotton-padded jackets, buying first-class tickets, booking hotel rooms, and all. I deliberately paused for a moment. Your father treats you so well, are you really willing to leave him for me? Wang Hunan and his daughter both fell silent at the same time. How did she know about the itinerary I arranged for Kai Kai? Could it be, she knows? A layer of cold sweat instantly broke out under Wang Hunan's wig, itching unbearably and making him restless. Daddy, is this a surprise you've prepared for me? After a 2-second pause, her daughter's cheerful and high-pitched voice came through the phone. Wang Hunan was awkwardly at a loss for words. I couldn't help but curl my lips. How could it be? This was actually a summer activity arranged for his precious son. If I had known you cared so much about Tingting, I shouldn't have insisted on taking her to suffer with me. You think I want to be with you? If it weren't for Daddy, my daughter's mocking voice harshly stepped on my heart. She just found out that her dad spent a lot of money to arrange a summer camp abroad for her, and now she looks down on me, a mother who only knows how to make money. Yes, it was a surprise Daddy prepared for you, but Mommy found out first. Wang Hunan quickly chimed in. The 300,000 yuan summer camp had nearly cost him half his life to spend on his daughter, whether from anger or excitement. His face flushed red. He couldn't wait for me to hang up the phone, afraid of stirring up any more trouble. So, Tingting, Daddy, he had just started speaking, and I immediately picked up the conversation. Your dad wants you to follow him. Are you willing? I didn't want to keep him hanging either. The purpose of this call was to straightforwardly let the child make their own choice. If she still chooses me, I can accept any discipline and responsibility. I just absolutely won't let her be like in her previous life, spending all day lost in mindless princess fantasies. No, Wang Hunan was so anxious he broke out in a sweat. He had promised Yue that after the divorce, it would just be the 3 of them, his family. It seems your daddy isn't too willing. So it turns out that making sarcastic remarks is this easy. I crossed my arms and looked at the man I've known for years standing before me every day in business. I'm caught in fierce battles, and I've always wanted to avoid bringing that approach into family matters. In the end, I realized that while you see others as your support and family, they see you as a target or just a worker. How ironic. I want to go with Daddy. After weighing the pros and Cons: the daughter still followed her heart. Daddy would buy her candy and help her hide the fact that she failed the exam. The key is that by following Daddy, I can also see Auntie Chin. The hand bouquets she makes are so beautiful. When I post them on social media, all my classmates are envious. Sign it. There's a handover meeting this afternoon, and we can still make it to the notary in time. I pushed the divorce agreement right in front of him. He hesitated, unable to bring himself to sign. Well, Daddy, I'm going to the mall first. Remember to come find me for dinner when you're done. Daddy. The phone hung up abruptly. I was just about to put my phone away when I suddenly noticed the contact name, Darling Daughter. After a moment's thought, I changed it to Wang Tingting. One-sided love ends here. It's not that I haven't seen the bouquets she posts on her social media. I just never imagined she would think a 200 yuan bouquet held more value than the life I gave her. A foreign language school costing over 300,000 yuan per semester, from kindergarten to now, the latest series of fruit-themed phones, computers, new shoes, backpacks, whatever she wants, I pay for it. Which one of them is worth less than dozens, or even hundreds, of bouquets of flowers, most likely because I've done so well over the past decade. The father and daughter never suspected I'd do anything shady with the money. Wang Hunan didn't even read the agreement carefully. He was still preoccupied with the issue of Tingting's share. If we really can't decide, let's talk about it another day. Anyway, apart from this company, I don't have anywhere else to go. Forget it. It's just a kid, at worst. We can just send her to boarding school. It's not worth losing a company over. Without further hesitation, he swiftly signed his name with a few strokes of the pen. After the lawyer reviewed and confirmed there were no issues, I grabbed the car keys, and the three of us headed straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau. To avoid any unexpected complications, his daughter was still at the mall, ready at any moment to smash another luxury car. Although Wang Hunan held the position of general manager, most of the business was actually handled by his assistant, who had graduated from a university. Now in the car, he was overwhelmed trying to verify a long list of bills sent over by the finance department. Looking at the bill totaling over 9 million, it was a lie to say he wasn't panicked. He knew he had been greedy, but he hadn't expected to have to make up for it afterward. Didn't you want to open a flower shop recently? How much did she transfer? 2,800,000 or 3 million? Sign this first. There are others waiting behind. I pointed out the place where he needed to sign, and he quickly glanced at it before signing his name. The signature was done. The matter was settled. Go back now. You can still make the meeting. I touched the raised seal on the divorce certificate. The warm sensation still felt somewhat unreal. Go handle the division of the property and funds, then come back to see me when it's done. Understand? The lawyer hailed a taxi and left directly. I drove the Maybach, while Wang Hunan got straight into the back seat, still carefully checking the bills sent by the finance department on his phone. Don't say it, but this custom-tailored suit gives him quite the air of a successful entrepreneur. As soon as I arrived at the building, I received a call from the police station. Wang Tingting smashed someone's Maybach standing in front of my car. I realized she hadn't just read too much of those over-the-top boss novels. She actually had it in for me. Here it is. Going for the same model again. I hung up the phone and casually took the elevator upstairs with Wang Hunan. This company's cancer needs to be removed, otherwise he'll really treat the business I've worked so hard to build as something the Wang family can do whatever they want with. Mr. Li, apart from the company's 5% shares, there's also the apartment and housing community under Wang Hunan's name. Excluding the joint financial projects during your marriage, he can still get around 20 million in cash. I listened quietly to the lawyer's report. Handle all the joint assets. I don't mind the loss, but I find it unlucky. Wang Hunan was still sitting beside me as usual. Hearing those cold words come out of my mouth, he suddenly felt a sense of unfamiliarity toward the person in front of him. A bad premonition arose in his heart. Then a colleague from the finance department came in to reconcile accounts, pulling his attention back to the books. Throughout the entire noon, he didn't even have time to eat, being kept at his desk, verifying the flow of funds line by line. Every payment that was assigned to him was immediately used to fill the company's financial shortfall. His phone rang and rang, the image of his beloved daughter lighting up and fading repeatedly, but at this moment, he couldn't care less. Watching the expenses pile up by the millions, he felt a sharp pang of distress. It wasn't until the bills were cleared and over 10 million in funds continued to flow in that his expression finally eased a little. It's fine, I'll earn it all back. This company finally belongs to me. However, the situation seemed to be unfolding in a direction he never expected. First, each department presented evidence of his poor performance and mismanagement. This included being unreachable on multiple occasions, during project tasks, misappropriating project funds, and causing projects to progress slowly or even fail to proceed. Next, the secretary revealed that the reports and research data submitted by Wang Hunan were almost entirely the result of his own overnight efforts, yet all the bonuses ended up in Wang Hunan's pocket. Amidst the chorus of accusations, he helplessly cast his gaze toward me, hoping I would rescue him from the dire situation as I had done in the past, clean up this mess for him. Again, I'm really sorry about that. Wang Hunan, due to insufficient personal ability, has caused significant economic losses to the company. He is hereby dismissed from the position of general manager. After handing over his work this afternoon, he may leave. Yengua, you poisonous woman, you set me up. The company is mine. I'd like to see who has the authority to fire me. I watched him lunging at me with claws bared, but I just coldly took a step back and let the security guards restrain him. What, are you the only one allowed to scheme against me? Am I not allowed to guard against you? I patted his face, twisted with rage. When did the beloved young man from back then turn into such a greasy middle-aged man? I'm telling you, I really feel sick just looking at your face. I couldn't hold back and slapped him. Guess how much money you've spent on that mother and son over the years? I grabbed a handful of tissues and violently wiped every finger that had touched him. Flower shop. The apartment at Longyuan Mansion, and your son's tuition and living expenses. It seems I've been supporting you for quite a few years. Wang Hunan struggled to get up from the ground. He wanted to move forward again but was firmly blocked by the company's security guards. Li Gua, you've always known I wanted a son. It was you who refused to try for one because of your career. As he spun his story, he convinced himself, and his voice involuntarily grew louder. If you were willing to have a child, would I go outside and have one with another woman? You've handled the outside world for years, while I've managed the household. What's wrong with not being able to meet company deadlines on time? Don't you feel any guilt that you've failed your family, failed your child? This passionate speech left all the colleagues present stunned. Wait, so you can actually talk like this? Some male colleagues quietly admitted they had learned something. I couldn't help but clap my hands. That makes some sense. Anyone who didn't know might think your son was much younger, but I remember he's only half a year younger than Tingting. Wang Hunan's face turned bright red, and he was now completely flustered. He had always thought he was hiding it so well, and didn't have the emotional intelligence to give the woman the money after going through the trouble of handling it through Qian San. To emphasize his status, he almost always transferred the money directly from the company account or via personal transfer. It's true that if we really look into it, every transaction can be traced. We're already divorced, so what's the point of arguing about this anymore? Besides, we still have Tingting. You surely don't want her to see us fighting, do you? Wang Hunan softened his tone, trying to brush the matter aside just like he used to coax money out of me. If your daughter finds out that you took tens of millions that belonged to her and spent it on someone else, do you think she'll be angry? With you or with me? Just then, the words had barely faded. His phone screen lit up again with the incoming call from his beloved daughter. Speak up, what else do you want? The call was cut off again, and Wang Hunan immediately turned off his phone and put it in his pocket. It was already chaotic enough. He didn't want his daughter getting involved at this point. The house in Longyuan Mansion. Exchange it for the one in Houting Community. I'll cover the price difference as a gift. That apartment in Houting Community was where Wang Tingting was born, and it was our first home. Though not large, it was located near a key high school and had appreciated significantly in value. This, fine, although the location of Houting Community is good, Longyuan Mansion is twice as large in area, and its market value is much higher, so I'm not at a loss. As for using our joint property to support a mistress and a third child, let's discuss the matter objectively. No need for personal attacks. Wang Hunan heard the terms white moonlight and precious sun turn into such unpleasant words in my mouth, and he gritted his teeth in anger. We're already divorced. I'll give you a Yin Kai Kai a home as soon as possible, a status that truly belongs to them. He spoke as if the two of them were the real star-crossed lovers, only to be forcibly taken away by me, the malicious rich person. Oh, then hurry up and sign it, so you can legitimize the mistress sooner. 1 day slower, and she'll still be the mistress. I pushed the company's share transfer document and the property transfer agreement in front of him. Do you want to sit here with the lawyer and itemize every expense spent on that woman over the past decade, or just sign this equity transfer and let it all be settled? Wang Hunan hesitated again. After all these years, I've still raised this man too well. He's so used to having everything handed to him. His mind is already filled only with indulgence and pleasure. How could he possibly keep track of accounts? Mr. Wang, here is the transaction record under your name, from a $38 coffee at Starbucks to a $420 back massage at Shuyanjian, and also, the lawyer pulled out a stack of transaction records thicker than the criminal code and began reading them aloud, item by item. Stop reading, I'll sign. Wang Hunan quickly interrupted the lawyer. If he kept reading, even his underwear would be exposed, and how could he continue working in this industry after that? He swiftly signed both documents with a few strokes of the pen, then angrily grabbed his suit jacket from the back of the chair and hurriedly fled the conference room. Mr. Li, that move of yours was truly brilliant. The lawyer looked at the two documents in his hand, smiling so widely that his eyes were barely visible. Where did you get Wang Hunan's financial transaction records? Oh, Mr. Li is asking about this. He pulled out that thick stack of transaction records from his bag once again. I just grabbed them from our company's finance department. Those records were made up on the spot. I didn't expect him to actually believe it. I hold my forehead. What on earth have I fallen in love with all these years? No wonder Wang Tingting's intelligence isn't great. I always thought it was due to laziness acquired later in life, but never expected it to be an innate deficiency with poor genetics. Go, hurry up and get these two notarized. Hey, I'll be right there. The lawyer handed the stack of bank statements back to his colleague in the finance department, then grabbed the documents and dashed off again. Once the matter was settled, everyone returned to their posts and resumed their work. I glanced down at my phone. Dozens of missed calls. What should I do now? It's already been given to your dad, just as you wished. Guess. Will your dear dad be willing to pay for such a large sum for you? I returned to the office in a good mood and casually instructed my secretary to arrange afternoon tea for the company staff. Also inform everyone about the dinner gathering tonight. Let's go with the Sihui seafood buffet you discussed last time. Those who can't make it should collect a 400 yuan meal allowance from finance. With 2 fewer freeloaders in my life, I feel a lot more relaxed. Isn't it better to spend money on those who take their work seriously and see the joy on their faces? At least they understand the principle of mutual benefit, instead of biting the hand that feeds them. That evening, the Sihui buffet was packed to the brim, almost as if we had reserved the entire place. I had thought many would find excuses not to come, as such gatherings had happened before without much success, but this time, everyone seemed particularly enthusiastic. Boss Li, we've been waiting for this day for so long. The current general manager, who is the assistant that Wang Hunan brought in from outside, the young man's eyes were red, not sure if it was from overeating or finally letting out a breath of relief. Despite everyone's unexpected support, I was sensible enough to slip away first, leaving the battlefield for them to take over. Before I even reached the parking lot, Wang Hunan's phone started ringing frantically. 8:30. This call came later than I had expected. Have you been waiting for about 8 hours? It seems your dear daddy doesn't hold you in the highest regard. After leaving the company, Wang Hunan immediately headed to the flower shop, picked up Qin Yui, and went straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau. The speed was so fast that the staff at the Civil Affairs Bureau couldn't help but roll their eyes. They had just gotten divorced at noon and were rushing back in the afternoon to get their marriage license. What a scumbag who cheated during the marriage. They dragged out the process for half an hour, finally slamming the steel stamp hard onto their faces before pulling out a professional smile and handing it over. Darling, let's go eat together. Wang Hunan held his beloved in his left arm and carried a briefcase in his right hand, saying, I've made a reservation at that French restaurant you love. Honey, did that woman leave with nothing for Tingting as we planned? The woman shyly clung to his arm. Having waited all these years, she could finally hold her head high. Well, there's a slight change. Wang Hunan felt a bit guilty. He had previously promised that it would just be the three of them living together. But now, what's wrong? Did Tingting mess things up again? I told you she's unreliable. No. It's not a big problem. Wang Hunan quickly pulled the person in for a kiss. I'm free this afternoon. After we eat, I'll go shopping with you. With just a few words, he managed to soothe the woman. During just one meal, he glanced at his phone countless times. Why did the money stop coming after just this small amount? Looking at the over 10 million balance in his card, he felt a sense of unease and anxiety. Even if he gave Liqua 5% of the company shares, calculating at 90%, he could still take away over 200 million. Yuan Qingyue was still taking photos with the red book and posting them on her social media, not noticing his unusual behavior, and Wang Tingting's repeated calls were being repeatedly ignored by the distracted Wang Hunan. He couldn't tell Qingyue that he had been kicked out of the company. Could he really say that Liqua had set him up? A man's pride wouldn't allow him to lose face like that, so he decided to placate her for now. Maybe there's more to this later. He couldn't quite figure it out. How had something that had been kept hidden for over a decade suddenly been exposed right in front of him? Honey, the sales girl just messaged me saying they just got a new style in, and I really like it. Qingyue finally took a satisfactory photo. After posting it beautifully on her social media, she remembered she needed to coax a wedding gift. The sweet, delicate voice pulled Wang Hunan's wandering thoughts back. All right. I'll buy it for you, baby. Give me a kiss, honey. You're so good. Chinue immediately asked the sales assistant to hold the bag for her. Over the years, she has taken advantage of such holidays and occasions to swindle plenty of things from Won Hunan. This is all thanks to that woman, who never asked Won Hunan to give her anything, making this man foolish and easy to trick. During the meal, both of them were preoccupied with their own thoughts, and they left after only a few bites. Chinue's eyes sparkled as she lovingly caressed the Hermes Himalayan Birkin bag in her hands, the unique texture of crocodile skin, this soft and delicate feel. This is it. Only such a limited edition piece is worthy of being her wedding gift. Thank you, hubby, for the wedding gift. Chinue was truly delighted this time, hugging his neck and giving him a big kiss, leaving him completely dazed. Sir, you can swipe your card here. Won Hunan's phone chimed, and through the small notification window, he saw a bank alert for a transaction of 265 million yuan. He thought it was a delay in the arrival of his assets and didn't pay much attention to it for the moment. Although he often bought things for Chinue, what she usually asked for were small items costing tens of thousands or 100,000 yuan. Besides the house and the flower shop, Chinue was still quite measured. She was afraid of pushing too hard and scaring people away. She didn't want to raise a child alone. Seeing Won Hunan pay without so much as a flicker of expression, Chinue was even more convinced that he must have received a substantial share of the assets this time, and she secretly rejoiced. I guess right, she had just been afraid that the bag she chose was too expensive. After all, for so many years, she had been afraid of revealing herself and never dared to spend too much money. When she saw the sales associate's post on her social media feed, she just casually asked about it, never expecting it to actually work out. Until now, walking out with her bag in hand, she still had a dreamlike, unreal feeling. As soon as she got home, Chin Yue used all her skills to give Won Hunan a full-body loving massage. The two were getting cozy when suddenly the doorbell rang at home. It abruptly interrupted the two who were having a good time. Who is it? Knocking so loudly. Won Hunan, disturbed from his mood, got up, put on his clothes, and opened the door with a bad temper. Who is Won Hunan? Two police officers in uniform were standing outside the door. Oh, I am. Won Hunan quickly ran through the situation in his mind. Hadn't he already repaid the money he took from the company? Why were the police here now? Get dressed and come with us. Hearing the commotion in the room, Chinue quickly got up and straightened her clothes. By the time she came out of the room, Won Hunan had already left with the police. She was so anxious that she couldn't find anyone to ask about the situation and could only keep calling Won Hunan. Fortunately, the phone was quickly answered. Honey, what happened? Chinue's voice trembled uncontrollably with panic. It's nothing serious, just a minor scrape. Ting accidentally bumped into someone, and I'll go handle it. Instead, after Won Hunan got in the car, he roughly understood the situation from the police and realized that nothing had happened to him, which immediately calmed him down. As long as it wasn't murder or arson, what serious mistake could a kid possibly make? The two police officers were in charge of Wang Tingting's case today, since the person involved was a minor. A guardian needed to step in to handle the matter. Wang Tingting had been detained at the police station all afternoon, which had genuinely frightened her quite a bit. She was quite dismissive at first, thinking that since her mom could afford it, she could just pay a bit more if needed, making money every day. Shouldn't I help her spend a little? She didn't expect to sit for so long. And even though she had given her phone number to the police, why hadn't her mom arrived yet? Usually, if she had a headache or felt unwell, her mom would immediately drive to the school to pick her up. Right, they were supposed to go through the divorce procedures this afternoon. Does it really take this long, or is it because of this that her mom has stopped talking to her? That can't be right. Aunt Chin said I'm the only child of my parents. She's being nice to me now just so I'll take care of her in the future. After the divorce, she'll give the assets to Dad first. She can earn more later anyway. After all, she loves making money so much, and I've already stopped talking to her. What else does she have to complain about? She just loves finding faults in others every day. Your mother's phone is not being answered. Check if there are any other contacts, and call them yourself. The police handed back the phone they had taken. You're not answering. Right, I'll call my dad, and don't even think I'll support you in the future. As a result, she made dozens of calls, but his father either hung up or didn't answer. She just sat on the iron chair at the police station all afternoon. It wasn't until evening that the police contacted me again, and I then said I had been dealing with the divorce in the afternoon. Since the child was awarded to the father, I could try looking at his current residence. If it weren't for the high amount of money involved and the young age of the individuals implicated, they really wanted to make a decision and just arrest the person, since the dashcam footage clearly showed that Wang Tingting was the one who started the trouble. "Daddy, I've been calling you all afternoon. Why didn't you answer? I've been sitting here for so long. Hurry up and take me home." Wang Tingting threw herself into Wang Hunan's arms, crying uncontrollably. "After all, from childhood to adulthood, I never let her suffer the slightest grievance. All right, don't be afraid. Daddy will handle it." Wang Hunan looked at the opposing representative lawyer, feeling very dissatisfied. A grown man picking on a child, how embarrassing. The opposing lawyer listed a series of items and amounts, and with each one revealed, Wang Hunan's face darkened a shade. Finally, with trembling hands, he took out his phone and dialed my number. "Hello, Xiaogua, Ligua, come to the XX police station. Tingting is in trouble." His words were evasive and unclear. "Are you planning to trick me into going there first?" "What should I do? I'm on the high-speed train right now. Please go. Handle it quickly." Hello. I hung up the phone with a snap, turned on airplane mode, and then leisurely set off for the airport. "In my previous life, when I couldn't afford to pay the compensation, I also asked you for help. What did you say back then?" "Xiaogua, I'm in province right now. You handle it for now." "Xiaogua, when we got divorced, you were the one who insisted on taking custody of the child. This responsibility should be yours to bear." "Ligua, I'm not trying to be harsh, but you're just not a competent mother in this life. The role of being competent and responsible, let me give it to you. I've taken a few days off for myself, planning to go to North City to fight for the project I didn't manage to secure before my death. At this point in time, it's still 3 months earlier than in my previous life, which is more than enough to seize the initiative, Mr. Wang. This is the repair estimate from the 4S shop and the price list of the items damaged by your daughter." The opposing lawyer handed over a long estimate, which made Wang Hunan's vision darken again and again. He called his assistant, hoping to have the company's lawyer come over for support, only to find that everyone in the company had blocked him, out of humanitarian consideration. "Mr. Guo has instructed that the claim for mental distress and lost wages related to your daughter be removed. We hope Mr. Wang will pay more attention to disciplining your child in the future." Wang Hunan could no longer hear what the lawyer was muttering. He stared at the amount summarized on the list, 7,264,800 yuan, not 7,264, nor 72648. How can this thing cause a mess worth over 7 million? What kind of man is he? "It's just that I messed up his stuff a little. Does it have to be such a big deal? I think he's deliberately trying to make me remember him." Wang Tingting finally managed to walk out of the police station door, rubbing her numb buttocks as she grew angrier the more she thought about it. "This kind of trick won't fool me." Wang Hunan was now completely ignoring his daughter's complaints. "Wait, how come there's only over 3 million left in the card? And what about the expenditure of 2.65 million at 7 o'clock tonight? Could it be that bag? A bag? 2.65 million. He suddenly remembered that among tonight's compensation list, there was something like a Hermes Birkin bag compensation of 2.74 million. That's roughly equivalent to him spending over 5 million today to buy 2 bags. Wang Hunan felt as if fate had punched him twice. Thump. Thump. Wait, that's not right. There's still money that hasn't arrived yet. Wang Hunan suddenly remembered that 9/10 of the property from the divorce still hadn't been paid. It should be transferred within these 2 days. The big guy is probably still at the company, so the liquidation won't be that fast. Seriously, scaring yourself. His expression finally softened a bit as he reached out, pulled the still muttering person into the car, and drove away from that wretched place. For days later, when I had successfully secured the project and rushed back to the company from North City, in the company lobby, I saw Wang Hunan, who looked weathered, and Wang Tingting, who wore an equally unpleasant expression. "Can't you see the messages I sent you?" As soon as Wang Tingting saw me appear, she immediately rushed over and loudly demanded. This time should be school hours. She was wearing clothes that didn't show any brand, the plain fabric making her look somewhat outdated. On her feet were a pair of white sneakers, somewhat deliberately creating the image of a little white flower from those overbearing CEO novels. "Looks like the brand name sneakers and clothes I bought were too tainted with the stench of money. She doesn't like wearing them. What a coincidence." Father and daughter out for a drive. I sidestepped around her and headed toward the elevator to go upstairs. "Ligua, did you tamper with the divorce agreement?" "Oh, finally figured it out. Didn't you read the content?" He followed her to the elevator entrance, but Wang Tingting seemed unwilling to get involved in this topic filled with the stench of money. She sat back down on the sofa, but her stiff back betrayed her concern about the situation. "Didn't we agree on a 90-10 split, or was it company shares? How come I don't have a single share?" He grew more agitated as he spoke, his raised voice drawing the attention of other colleagues in the hall. Some who recognized me began to walk over. They didn't say a word. just stood quietly behind me, silently forming a strong wall of support. My nose tingled with emotion. In my past life, why had I ever abandoned such wonderful people? 9 for me, 1 for you. Is that not acceptable? I calmly watched him, like a monkey out of control, jumping up and down. How could that possibly work? Do you take me for a fool? Yes. Do you take yourself for a fool? I take a step back, distancing myself from the person who seems to be acting a bit crazed. Impressive, Ligua. Not only did you set me up, but you didn't even spare your own daughter. What kind of person does that make you? He still has some sense left, knowing that the property distribution has already been settled, and he's fallen into this trap for good, but his daughter is in his hands. He doesn't believe that, after all the affection I've shown her in the past, I would now be willing to see Ting suffer a hard life with him. Oh, what have I done to mistreat Ting? I'm also curious, did I mistreat her by spending all my earnings on her, or did I mistreat her by always giving in to her demands and fulfilling every wish? He stammered for a long time, but couldn't come up with a coherent reason. Anyway, you have to pay child support, 50,000 a month, $1 million a month. Oh, so you're coming to my turf to act like a bully, is that what you think? Or is that what your daughter Ting thinks? Isn't she the one who hates the smell of money the most? What? Suddenly changed your taste? Isn't that your duty as a mother? Wan Hunan clung stubbornly to this point, blocking the elevator door and refusing to let me go upstairs. That does make some sense. I watched him with amusement as his eyes suddenly lit up upon hearing the reply. All right then, I'll have my lawyer transfer the amount to you each month according to the national standard. His expression immediately relaxed quite a bit, although he hadn't managed to secure a large sum. At least this trip wasn't entirely in vain. I just don't know whether you'll spend this money on Ting or on your woman and illegitimate child. I raised my voice, making sure every word reached the eavesdropper clearly. Excuse me, I have something to do. The staff behind me immediately stepped forward, lifting the person frozen at the elevator entrance back into the lobby and clearing them out. It wasn't until Wan Ting moved in that she learned her father had actually gotten married to Aunt Chin. She and Kai became step-siblings with different parents. She, who had always complained about being an only child and feeling too lonely, finally had siblings, but she couldn't feel the slightest bit of happiness in her heart. This big room over here is Kai's, while my own room is just like the nanny's, small, dark, and without a private bathroom. They never take the initiative to buy her new clothes when the seasons change. I should have brought the ones from home. No, I can't think like that. Truly elegant female leads don't rely on designer brands to showcase themselves. Chinui bought her several pure white dresses online. The simpler the style, the more it highlights an ethereal, fairy-like charm. Ting, you look absolutely stunning in them. Wan Ting looked at the dress she was wearing. But didn't Daddy sign me up for summer camp during the vacation? Is it appropriate to wear something like this there? Did Wan Hunan sign her up too? Honey, look at how busy my flower shop is from morning till night. How about letting Ting come help at the shop during summer vacation? It'll also give me a chance to bond with her. When Wan Hunan received the message, he was holed up in a cafe, pretending to be at work. He still hadn't figured out how to tell Chinue about being fired from the company. At that moment, he was racking his brain over how to get money from his daughter. Seeing the message, his eyes instantly lit up. Sure, honey, then I'll leave it to you. Will there be a conflict with Ting's summer camp schedule? Wan Hunan suddenly remembered that he still needed to sign Ting up for summer camp, which would cost another 200,000 to 300,000 yuan. I would have paid before if needed, but now there's no money in the card, and I haven't gotten anything out of it yet, so how can I give it? It's okay, sweetheart, I'll just refund it for her. Doesn't she like flowers too? Let her spend the summer vacation playing at the flower shop. After getting the response she wanted, Chinue happily went to pack her son's luggage. Ting, look at how dirty those boys at the summer camp get, all sweaty and smelling sour. Only after finishing with her son's things did Chinue leisurely enter Wang Ting's room. Sitting on the edge of the bed, she gently took her hand with faint tenderness. How about spending the summer at the flower shop? Auntie can teach you flower arranging. Our Ting is so beautiful. Who knows how many outstanding young men you'll charm. Under her flattery and coaxing, Wang Ting began to dream of meeting a prince in a flower shop. Ting, for the next 2 days, just follow the staff sister to get familiar with the flower shop's procedures, and Chin will teach you flower arranging slowly once she's finished with her work. Wang Ting's initial fantasies and expectations were completely shattered after the last white dress became dirty. She had been cutting flower leaves for a whole week, constantly washing vases, moving floral materials, removing thorns, and doing various chores like sweeping the floor, not to mention arranging flowers. Even when she wanted to pick up a delicate flower to take a photo, the staff would go to great lengths to stop her. It wasn't at all like she had imagined, a beautiful daily flower arrangement, with boys passing by admiring her holding a lovely bouquet. Today, when she got home and looked in the mirror, She realized there were still leaf fragments and flower clay residue in her hair. Her hands were also covered in bruises. Furious, she threw herself into her father's arms and burst into tears. "Daddy, look at my clothes, my hands, what have they become?" Hunan didn't want to deal with her trivial complaints at all, but he had no choice but to soothe her. All right, don't cry. Do you know why Daddy was instantly drawn to your Aunt Qin back then? It was because of her unyielding spirit." He paused for a moment. After all, Qin Yue's flower shop had just opened not long ago, so he needed to come up with something that sounded reasonable. She was also covered in flowers and plants, but her aura was so strong that even the fresh flowers around her seemed to pale in comparison. That's why Daddy was captivated by her at first sight. Wang Tingting went back to her room and rummaged through her entire collection of domineering CEO novels, only to find that not a single female lead in any of the books was both luxurious and wealthy. Moreover, they share a common trait: they are not defeated by money, and the more difficult their circumstances, the more they shine. Isn't that just like her? It seems she misunderstood Aunt Qin. Feeling somewhat guilty, she cheerfully went to the flower shop the next day, playing the role of a resilient little white flower. "Why haven't you paid my tuition?" When Wang Tingting stormed into my office, her secretary, following closely behind, was on the verge of tears. "I'm sorry, Mr. Li." I couldn't stop her. I waved her away and, at the same time, asked someone to bring in a glass of freshly squeezed juice. Just as Dad said, as soon as I take the initiative, she'll come crawling back to please me again. How boring. Don't try that on me. It won't work. I looked her up and down. Her hair was messily tied up at the back of her head, with bits of blue floral foam and small leaves faintly visible within. Her white dress was clearly stained with mud, greenish-yellow sap, and the red from flowers deliberately smeared on. I couldn't find the words to describe it at the moment. There were so many elements that my eyes grew tired. Wang Tingting, however, thought I was captivated by her new look, holding her head even higher, almost to the point of looking at the road through her nostrils. I took the juice brought in by the secretary and drank half of it in one gulp. "What, did you think it was for you? Aren't you the one who finds drinking fresh juice pretentious?" "How could I possibly disgust you? I'm not afraid of being pretentious. It tastes so good." "You, what, doesn't your dad pay your tuition?" I have no patience to watch her wanting to enjoy good quality while pretending not to bow to money. "Daddy said you've always paid the tuition, and it's not like you don't have the money, just pay it directly. You had to drag it out and make me come to you in person. Are you happy now?" I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Did the 9-year compulsory education somehow skip her? It's also my fault for protecting her too well, making her take things for granted like this. "Your father should have received the child support payment this month from the lawyer. Didn't he get it?" Wang Tingting had no idea about this. It was only yesterday at dinner that she heard Kai, who had just returned from summer camp, mention that the school required some preparations. That's when she remembered that no one had brought her new school uniforms or a backpack this semester. They used to get them every semester. Could it be that they sent them over there? Did they not know I've moved to a new home? "Daddy, it seems my school is about to start again, but why haven't I received the new uniform and backpack they were supposed to send?" Wang Hunan received 220,000 yuan in child support yesterday, and he immediately used it to pay his son's tuition, completely forgetting he had a daughter. After all, his ex-wife had always handled these matters before, and that school's tuition was significantly more expensive than Kai's. If Li Gua hadn't insisted, he would have thought it unnecessary for a girl to go through all that. "Honey, well, your previous school has always been managed by your mom, so why don't you ask her? Li Gua really is something, such an important matter like your child's schooling, and she didn't even arrange it properly first." Kai attends a school that costs over 100,000 per semester, and Wang Hunan originally wanted to get him into the same school as Tingting. He was also afraid that the two of them might run into each other at the same school when picking up their children, and on the other hand, he couldn't afford that much money. "I'm talking about tuition fees now. Pay it immediately, and have the new school uniform and backpack sent to Daddy's house." After finishing her words, Wang Tingting sat directly on the sofa in my office and started eating the small snacks on the table by herself. I looked at her, my face turning red from choking because I ate too fast for so many years. The snack cabinet at home has never been empty, yet I've never seen her eat much. She always complains that the snacks I buy are bad and unhealthy. Other moms make snacks by hand, but I either order from a bakery or have the housekeeper make them. No sincerity at all. These little snacks were given away during a mall promotion. I kept them around because the packaging looked festive. She's not picky now, is she? New school uniform, new backpack. Oh, I bought those for her separately each semester, so they cost extra. I think it was 48,000. I just wanted her to go to school looking fresh. And pretty every semester. I'm not your guardian anymore, so let your father handle your schooling. After all, hasn't your father been paying for your younger brother's education all these years? Wang Tingting didn't know how she left the office. Her mind was still replaying my words. Your dad now has a son, so it seems he's unwilling to spend money on you anymore. Was it 220,000 or 230,000? The lawyer should have transferred your child support yesterday. It's enough for your living and schooling expenses. Did daddy really take the money and pay for Kai-Kai's tuition, but not for himself? Impossible. This woman must be trying to drive a wedge between me and daddy. She definitely didn't transfer the money to daddy. On one hand, she encouraged herself not to fall into my trap, while on the other hand, she knew I wasn't the type to be stingy with money. A fallen heiress outwits her cruel stepmother. The heroine's spotlight that was stolen, give it back to me. As she just reached the company entrance, she saw a small stall with several novels on display, being advertised with a shout, "Miss, take a look, right now, for new book promotion, everyone can get 3 free copies. That's great. Please pack 3 copies for me." Wang Tingting had just approached when she was pushed aside by the crowd, watching the already scarce books on the shelf. Only the last set remained. She quickly grabbed 3 copies. "I'll take them, Daddy." "Did she transfer money to you, my child support?" Wang Tingting, still holding a glimmer of hope for a negative answer, went to find Wang Hunan. "This, that, Tingting, Daddy just happened to have a project that needed funding, so I used it. How about that? Did your mom pay your tuition?" Wang Tingting's heart sank to the bottom of the pond. It turned out her father had indeed taken the money but hadn't paid her tuition fees. How can this be? Just because she has a son, does it mean she doesn't matter at all, just as the book says, with a stepmother? Even a biological father can turn into a stepfather. "I don't care. If you won't pay my tuition, then give me back the child support. I'll pay it myself." She absolutely didn't want to drop out of school now. She hadn't even had the chance to show off her new look in front of the school heartthrob. Besides, if she dropped out now, her classmates would definitely laugh at her behind her back. "All right then. Daddy will transfer you to the same school as Kai-Kai. That way, dropping off and picking up will be more convenient, and you 2 siblings can look out for each other at school." Wang Hunan felt a bit distressed. The tuition at this school was over 100,000 per semester, but then he thought about the monthly child support payments he received. Forget it, this deal isn't a loss. But Wang Tingting didn't see it that way. At home, Kai-Kai already had better food and things than she did. If they were in the same school, wouldn't he just bully her to death? She definitely didn't want her classmates to know she had a stepbrother. "I don't want to. I want to stay at my original school, and I want new uniforms and a backpack. I can take the school bus to and from school. You don't need to pick me up." Wang Hunan's face darkened instantly at the thought of the 300,000 yuan tuition fee, not to mention the additional miscellaneous fees and other expenses. "If you don't want to attend Kai-Kai's school, I'll transfer you to a public one, but going back to your original school is out of the question. The money's already in the pocket, and you still expect him to spit it out? Absolutely impossible. If he can't handle 1 ligua, how could he possibly let the younger ones climb all over his head too?" Wang Tingting cried and made a scene at home for 2 days, but her father still didn't give in. She would lock herself in her room every day, reading novels, and the more she read, the more she felt that the tragic female protagonist in the story was actually her biological father didn't care for her, her stepmother didn't love her, and she had a younger brother who was seizing all the family wealth. She couldn't just sit back and wait for death. She had to fight back. That night, she smashed up Qin Yui's flower shop completely. "Didn't you tell me to soak the floral foam?" "Sure, I'll soak it all for you." She crushed the floral foam on the ground, using the faucet to water it until it turned into a soggy mess. Then she used pruning shears to cut off all the flower buds in the warehouse. "Made a huge cup of jasmine tea for my stepmother." In the end, it was a colleague on the night shift who forgot something and came back to find someone smashing things in the store. She was so frightened that she quickly dialed the police. When Wang Hunan saw the police outside the door for the second time, he was much calmer than the last time. Although he didn't know what had happened, he calmly told Kai-Kai to study well at home and said he would be back soon. The police officer looked at the calm man before him and couldn't help but admire his mental fortitude. "It wasn't him on duty last time. I only heard from colleagues that a little girl deliberately scratched someone else's car and damaged valuable items, and her family compensated over 7 million, although the amount isn't as much this time. When it actually comes down to him handling it, he still feels that kids these days really know how to cause trouble." "Wah, what? You smashed the flower shop?" Lin Yui, who was in the middle of a skincare session at the beauty salon, suddenly received a call from an employee. She rushed to the police station only to discover the person who smashed the shop was actually Wang Tingting. "Are you crazy? Smashing my shop? If you don't restore it to its original state, I'll sue you." Qin Yui was so angry that her whole body trembled. After persistent pleading and nagging for a long time, Wang Hunan finally agreed to pay only half. She had nearly exhausted all her savings to open the shop. Since this is a family dispute, we can only suggest that you go home and resolve it yourselves. The police officer was also at a loss for words. He had just checked the file and realized that this girl was the same person who had smashed the car last time. I'll emphasize once again, guardians have the responsibility to manage and educate their children. Please go home and have a good talk with your child, and don't do such extreme things again. Wang Hunan felt that ever since his divorce, nothing had gone right for him in the past. He never had to worry about daily life, his child's education, or even money. Even at the company, he was constantly addressed as general manager, and whatever he wanted to do was just a matter of giving an order. Now, he had no job. It wasn't that he hadn't looked for one, he had even contacted his former clients, but they either weren't hiring at the managerial level or simply didn't need more people. Money was pouring out with no income coming in. If things continue like this, they won't have a meal in a few months. Go find your mother and make her pay this compensation, or you'll never have a good life again. Qin Yue calculated that the flower shop's losses, the cost of redecorating, the employees' salaries during this period, and her own mental distress amounted to 2 million. She was trembling with anger, unable to maintain her usual gentle and non-confrontational demeanor. She flung the bill right into Wang Tingting's face. What's wrong? Not going to keep sweet-talking me? Didn't my daddy buy this flower shop for you too? What's my daddy's is mine, and I can smash it if I want. Wang Tingting wasn't afraid at all this time. The last time she damaged someone else's car and had to pay over 7 million in compensation, her daddy didn't even get angry with her. This time it's only about 2 million. What is she afraid of? Wang Hunan, I'm telling you, if you don't handle this matter properly, it's either her or me. Qin Yue angrily slammed the room door shut with a loud bang. In the living room, only Wang Tingting, who looked indifferent, and Wang Hunan, who was somewhat angry, remained. After all, it wasn't his stuff that got damaged, and he just took a look at the flower shop. Let the staff clean up for 2 days, that's all. How much are those cut flowers worth in terms of inventory costs? This is really something. She's only asking for a maximum of 100,000 or so, yet she's demanding 2 million like a lion opening its mouth. Daughter, daddy wants to tell you. Wang Tingting didn't want to listen to her father's lecture. She now realized that everything he said was just a way to brush her off. She got up and went straight back to her room. A few new books had just arrived by courier during the day, and she hadn't even had a chance to read them yet. She left a phone number when she collected the books last time, and unexpectedly, just 2 days later, she got a call informing her that she was the 1000th lucky reader and that they would sent her another set of new books. Wang Hunan eventually enrolled his daughter in the same school as his son, mainly because he didn't want to be criticized for favoring his son and neglecting his daughter. After all, in the eyes of outsiders, he is still his stepfather, but he didn't expect that Qin Yue was determined to carry it through this time, keeping him locked out of the room for 3 consecutive days. He has been sleeping on a makeshift bed in Kaikai's room these past 2 days, and his whole body aches from it, but asking him to shell out 2 million to comfort Qin Yue, he really can't come up with that kind of money. He only has a little over 2 million left in his bank account, and he's still counting on the few bucks I scrape together each month to get by. 2 million. 2 million. Is he cursed by that number or something? Wait, 2 million. That platinum bag isn't even worth more than 2 million. The next day, Wang Hunan sneaked into the bedroom and took the bag from the top of the wardrobe. Tsk, this is too similar. He pulled out a bag from the black bag he was carrying. The seller had guaranteed it was a 1-to-1 replica. Unless you go to the counter, you can't tell the difference. He was initially skeptical, but now that he's comparing them, he really can't see any difference. Wait, something worth thousands of dollars. He spent 265 million. As long as he can get away with it this time, he'll buy another one to appease Qin Yue. I'll buy her all 3. Wang Hunan swapped out the bag and immediately headed to the second-hand market. No way, this is way too unfair. Bought for 265 million, barely used it, and now it's only worth 208 million for recycling. So according to 2 back massages, each one would cost 300,000. No wonder they say women are spendthrifts. He grumbled under his breath, but still looked at the money credited to his account and silently bought himself an 80,000 massage card. Recently, unable to find a job and unwilling to stay at home, he would make excuses about going to work every day, but in reality, he was just wandering around. He soon picked up his old hobby again, massage. The girls here are gentle and sweet-talking, much more comfortable than staying at home. Back then, he had to take care of the family business and Qin Yue, the mother, so with 3 things to manage, he never had time for such things. Now, there's plenty of time. The shop only closed for 2 days in total, and on the 3rd day, new flowers were restocked, and it reopened for business, but Chinui also had her own little plan, using the excuse to take out more money, just in time to expand her little stash. Ever since she invested her money into the flower shop, her purse had been empty, and her heart felt equally hollow. She also found out at the police station this time that Wang Tingting had caused such a big mess last time, and Wang Hunan actually compensated her with over 7 million. What a man, he must have given that woman a significant portion of his assets after their divorce. She tried to subtly probe him several times, but couldn't get the exact figure out of Wang Hunan's mouth. However, on the day they registered their marriage, when he bought a bag worth over 2 million, he didn't even blink an eye at this time. She would just ask for 2 million. She didn't believe Wang Hunan would refuse. That night, looking at the 2 million deposited into her account, Qin smiled. She swayed her hips and pulled Wang Hunan into the room. Little did she know that a pair of eyes was watching their every move from the corner. After finishing several new books, Wang Tingting finally emerged from her room the day before school started. This time, she didn't make a fuss about changing schools again. Instead, she ate her meal expressionlessly, observing the interactions between her biological father and her stepbrother Kai Kai. She could now say with certainty her father had been having an affair with Aunt Qin for a long time, and Kai Kai wasn't her stepbrother at all, but her half-brother from the same father. Looking at the harmonious and loving scene of the family of three, Wang Tingting tightly twisted her fingers. Why should it be like this? After messing up her own home, she can still calmly enjoy everything that rightfully belongs to her. Mom, the whole school is saying that I'm my stepfather's illegitimate child, that you two got together over a decade ago. Wherever Kai Kai went, he saw people whispering behind his back, and at first, he couldn't quite figure out why, until one of his classmates asked him directly, "Your dad is pretty impressive, letting you be an illegitimate child for over 10 years. In that case, doesn't your mom basically become the mistress who took over?" All day long, his classmates kept their distance from him and gossiped about him. He couldn't bear it anymore, so he ran back home on his own. Kai Kai, how could you think that way? Your dad, Uncle Wang, and I have been good friends for many years. You know that Uncle Wang has helped us a lot over the years. Qin Yue was truly overwhelmed. Everything had been fine for so many years. How could such idle gossip suddenly start spreading? Could it be Wang Tingting again? She's now in the same school as her son. The more Qin thought about it, the more she felt it was possible. She had to take action and couldn't let Wang Tingting continue like this. Her son was her lifeline. Tingting, Auntie has something to discuss with you. When Wang Tingting returned from school and opened the door, she saw the three of them sitting on the sofa. It was clear from their posture that they were there for her. Is something the matter, Auntie Qin? I still have quite a bit of homework to do. Qin Yue looked at the girl before her, feeling that she seemed different from when they first met. Auntie wants to ask you, did you hear any messy rumors at school today? Wang Tingting raised her eyes and replied with a smile. What Auntie Qin is asking about, is it your affair of inserting yourself into someone else's marriage as the other woman, or the fact that Kai Kai is my father's illegitimate child? Tingting, how dare you speak to your elders like that? Wang Hunan scowled, his face stern as he reprimanded her. He and Yue had never dared to tell Kai Kai, precisely because they were afraid of the gossip from outsiders. The only people who knew about this, besides herself and Yue, were Li Gua. Oh, wasn't it her who asked me first? If you're so afraid of gossip, just go get a paternity test. She glanced at the two silent adults and gave a contemptuous smile. The innocent will naturally be clear. What's there to worry about? Kai Kai refused to go to school anymore. He kept insisting on taking his father for a paternity test. He stayed at home making a fuss for 2 whole days, making Qin Yue extremely angry. What's there to test? The real father is right here. What's there to test? In the end, it was the real mother who bought him tens of thousands of yuan worth of game skins, finally calming him down. Reluctantly went to school, Mr. Li. I've gathered a few more books, things like Rebirth, The Bad Dad and Evil Mom, Step Aside, The Rich Girl Returns. I want all the real estate and jewelry. I flipped through the investment proposal in my hand. Send them over, or have someone deliver them. Just don't receive them at the office. I hope Tingting won't let me down. Wang Tingting looked at the sneakers in the room. The AJ logo had no extra details. She picked up the shoes and turned to enter Kai's room. His shoes were genuine. How ironic. On one hand, she's too materialistic, using my brand name items, and on the other hand, she's using my child support payments to subsidize her own son. This calculation is just a bit too obvious. She grabbed a red marker and began marking every designer clothing, shoes, and designer bags in Qin Yue's wardrobe. After finishing, she looked down at her own feet, at the yellowed white sneakers she was wearing. Only then did she leave the house, carrying The only item that had survived unscathed, Kekai's brand new AJ men's sneakers, my Hermes, my Bulgari, my bags, my silk cheongsam, my cashmere coat. Oh my god, Chinui stared at the chaotic mess in her wardrobe, her vision going dark again and again. She cried as she hugged the Hermes Birkin bag to her chest, large tears falling onto it. This would be truly heartbreaking, even worse than crying when the store was smashed. She was packing her things while calling Wang Hunan. The phone rang. For a long time before it was answered. Hey, don't mess around. Oh, honey. Chinui was so furious she felt dizzy and didn't notice what was happening on Wang Hunan's end. She screamed, Wang Hunan, get back here right now. Wang Hunan thought his secret snacking had been discovered. Frightened, he quickly pulled on his pants and hurried home. Look at these, all of these. It's all your daughter's doing. As soon as he stepped inside, several bags were thrown at him, startling him. At least it wasn't about the secret snacking. Was it that the fake bag they switched was discovered? Did my daughter do it? Ting ting, good. It has nothing to do with me. Honey, what's wrong? I had to rush back in the middle of a meeting. Not caught. Wang Hunan walked in cheerfully, only to find the place in complete disarray. All gone, my clothes, my bag, all ruined by your daughter. Chinui sat on a pile of clothes that had been scribbled all over, crying so hard that her makeup was smudged. The rising volume made Wang Hunan feel increasingly annoyed. Why did things get worse and worse after marriage? I should have never gotten married in the first place. Just a few clothes. If they're gone, they're gone. We can just buy new ones. Wang Hunan pulled the person up from the ground, wiping the tears from Chinui's face with a slight look of disgust. How old are you? Still acting like this? Hearing the words buy new ones, Chinui's eyes lit up instantly. It's a deal. Everything must be new for me, or I'm not doing it. Wang Hunan looked at the few bags on the floor, which he had long since replaced with one-to-one replicas. They weren't worth much anyway, so what did it matter if they were swapped out? I don't care. I don't even have clothes to wear for work tomorrow. You have to transfer me $1 million first. Here we go again, always asking for money. Wang Hunan impatiently shook off her hand, which was wrapped around his arm. The company's been short on project funds lately. Didn't I give you $2 million the other day? Use it for now. He looked at Chinui's darkening face and quickly added, next month. Once the funds are recovered next month, I'll buy you double. Okay. After coaxing and kissing, and finally comforting her in the messy room, the matter was finally put to rest. Wang Tingting looked at the new pair of AJ shoes on her feet and a satisfied smile curled at the corner of her mouth. I'm sorry, ma'am, but we can't provide cleaning services for this bag here. The Hermes staff member handed the bag back to Chinui. Is it because the ink stain is difficult to clean? I'm willing to pay extra. After all, Chinui couldn't bear to part with this bag worth over 2 million yuan, so she went to the Hermes counter to see if there was any way to clean it. Cleaning is one issue, but the main point is that this bag isn't from our Hermes brand, so we can't provide cleaning services. The staff were also helpless. Every year, there were always a few people bringing in fake bags and demanding service. That can't be right. My husband and I bought this bag here ourselves. Look at the chat records. I asked the sales assistant to hold it for me. Chinui was somewhat stunned. How could it suddenly be a fake bag? Ms. Chin, you did indeed purchase a limited edition Himalayan Platinum Birkin here, but it's not the one you have in your hands. If you don't believe me, you can go outside and have it authenticated. Chinui didn't know how she made it back home. The more she thought about it, the more something felt off. In the end, she drove her car, took all the dozen or so bags from her home, and had them authenticated together. Fake, 8 fakes. Wang Hunan, you bastard. Except for a few bags that were not high-priced and showed obvious signs of wear, the other 8 bags had all turned into one-to-one replicas. She knew Wang Tingting couldn't possibly have done this, so it could only be Wang Hunan. She sat in the living room, waiting and waiting, until Wang Hunan finished eating and drinking, humming a song as he opened the door and came in. Why did you come back so early today, dear? Isn't the flower shop busy? Wang Hunan hadn't expected to run into Chinui at this time, and he was startled. Yawning, he headed to the room, not daring to get too close, afraid that Chinui would smell something off on him. Weren't you at the company? Why do you smell so strange? What was bound to happen had finally come. I just finished meeting with a client. Foreigners love wearing all sorts of weird perfumes. If you don't like it, I'll go take a shower first. He grabbed his clothes and hurriedly ducked into the bathroom. Chinui wasn't a naive young girl. How could she not know what the man had done? However, her focus at the moment was on the phone Wang Hunan had left on the bed. She skillfully unlocked it and first checked the bank balance, only to find just over 1 million yuan. Could it really be true, as he said, that the company's funds have been turned over? Without hesitation, she first transferred 1 million to herself, then continued to check his communication records and transfer history, looking at the various amounts repeatedly transferred into a girl's account, along with the consumption records at the Shuyanjian Entertainment Club. She was so furious that her whole body trembled. Did he think she was Li Gua? Would she allow him to indulge so openly in cheating? She was so angry that she transferred all the money she could from Wang Henan's card and payment app to her own card. In the end, the total amount added up to less than 2 million. She suddenly began to doubt. Did Wang Henan really get that much money when he divorced me? Where did that money go? If you had money, you wouldn't have to resort to selling bags. When Wang Henan came out, he saw Qin Yue still flipping through his phone non-stop. He was so startled that he quickly snatched it back. What are you doing? What am I doing? Why don't you first explain what you've done? Qin Yue slapped him across the face. Lily, Shuyanjian, what? You've started working at a club recently. Qin Yue, that's enough. Don't act like a shrew just because you're getting married. Wang Henan was also getting a bit angry. The last time he hit me and I didn't fight back, it was because there were security guards around. If he just stands there and lets a woman hit him again this time, he's a coward. I'm telling you, when I was with you, Li Guan never cared about any of this either. Did I spend less time on you back then? Why is it that now that it's your turn, you can't handle it properly? He opened his clothes to take out a set to wear, only to find that all his clothes had been drawn on. Having no choice, he had to put on the dirty clothes he had taken off. Ignoring the person sitting on the bed crying, he slammed the door and left. The car drove to the mall, intending to buy 2 sets of clothes to get by, only to find that all his payment apps were out of money. Needless to say, it must have been that crazy woman Qin Yue. He had no choice but to use his credit card, using it for now. Then he bought some daily necessities and small gifts, planning to stay at Lily's place for a few days first. When that woman cools down, I'll buy a gift to appease her and get some money back. Luckily, tomorrow is the beginning of the month, and the new child support payment is due again. Would you like cash or a bank card? I looked at Wang Tingting standing in front of me, wearing AJ sneakers. I'm not surprised she came to find me. Either way is fine. I've applied to live on campus. Take it. Later, I'll have the lawyer take you to open a bank card. From now on, I'll have someone deposit the child support into your card every month. I pushed over the 50,000 yuan in cash in a backpack containing an Adidas tracksuit. The shoes were right, but the clothes were too ugly. She seemed to be expecting something, but finally, in silence, she took her bag and walked out with her head down. Wang Henan waited for several days, but the money still hadn't arrived. He lay in his girlfriend's small single room, extremely anxious. Credit cards aren't accepted everywhere, and the payment is due next month anyway. Finally, with no other choice, he gritted his teeth and used the remaining balance to buy a necklace worth 38,000 yuan. When he got home, the house had already returned to silence. Not only was it quiet, but it was also unnaturally clean. There wasn't a single piece of clothing in the wardrobe. Wang Tingting was living on campus, and Qin Yue and Kai Kai had moved out as well. Now all that remains for him is an empty house and a divorce agreement. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My daughter insisted on taking me for a paternity test. I asked why. She said, I'm talented in singing and dancing, and I'm beautiful, while you're fat and ugly. You definitely can't be my biological mother. My mother should be like Aunt Caroline. Furious, I took her for the paternity test. When the results came out, she cried. Impossible. How could I possibly be your biological daughter? I don't want your lousy genes. She said her father has good genes, while mine are poor. Whenever there's something wrong with her, she always blames it on my genes holding her back. Her father cheated and demanded I leave with nothing, and my daughter immediately sided with him, telling me to get out. I asked her, Lily, I'm your mother, I've given so much for you. She impatiently cut me off and said, here we go again, what have you given? Being a housewife without earning a single penny, always asking dad for money every day, and thinking you're something special just for doing a bit of housework. Who cares about your sacrifices? Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably, and in a daze, I was hit by a car and died as I stepped out. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my daughter was diagnosed with a rare disease. My husband demanded that I quit my job to take care of our child, but I coldly replied, no. My husband, Simon Baker, stared at me in disbelief and said, Alice, do you understand the situation? Our daughter's illness is very serious. Someone needs to stay home to care for her and take her to rehabilitation regularly. My mother can't handle it alone. If you don't quit your job, how will our daughter's illness be treated, I retorted. Then why don't you resign instead of insisting that I do? Simon Baker said matter-of-factly. You're the one taking care of the kids. I don't know how to look after children. My heart grew cold, and I quietly clenched my fists. When I was pregnant, Simon Baker promised that I would be responsible for giving birth, and he would take care of raising the child, a clear division of labor. I was in pain for 2 days and 2 nights, and I tore badly down there. Just after I left the delivery room, my mother-in-law leaned in and said, "Alice, it's a girl. You should start preparing for the second child right away." Simon Baker stood nearby without saying a word. I glared at him angrily, and only then did he interrupt his mother. "Mom, Alice is very weak right now. Don't say things like that. In modern society, boys and girls are the same." My mother-in-law awkwardly stepped back, muttering, "A daughter is good too. A daughter is good too. He is very careless in doing things. My husband says he takes care of the child for me, but in reality, the child is breastfed and needs to be fed every 2 hours, so the mother is almost always needed. While breastfeeding, I change diapers and do other things. By the end of the day, everything falls on the mother. How could it possibly be his turn?" The mother-in-law made a big show of offering to help, but in reality, she only paid lip service. "Oh, the baby is hungry. Hurry up and feed them. Oh, the diaper is so full already. Why haven't you changed it yet? The baby has a rash. How have you been taking care of them?" I was exhausted to death, yet still being nitpicked about everything. When my husband comes home from work, he only holds the baby for a little while. After listening to his mother's endless complaints, he gets so distressed over a small rash on the baby that he starts blaming me too. After blaming me, he throws the baby into my arms the next day before work and runs off to the study to sleep. With that kind of behavior, there's no way he could take care of the baby now. He's even more justified in using the excuse that I don't know how to take care of the baby to brush me off and demand that I quit my job. Looking at his self-righteous expression, my anger surged. "Is the child mine alone? Isn't she your flesh and blood? We agreed that I would be responsible for giving birth, and you would take care of raising her. Which part of that have you actually done?" Simon Baker, feeling guilty, remained silent for a moment and said, "Alice, let's be reasonable. It's not that I don't want to take care of her, but I can't bring a child to work. Besides, the child is breastfeeding, and as a man, I really can't help with that." I said, "The child isn't breastfeeding anymore, and I still don't see you taking care of her." He said, "I have to work at night. The child is used to sleeping with you. Even if I wanted to take her, she wouldn't want me. You feel wronged, but I hand over my entire salary every month. You're tired from taking care of the child, but I'm also exhausted from work. Can't we try to understand each other? You're tired from work. Am I not working too?" I clenched my fists. "Fine, I'll go to work, and you resign to take care of the child. I'm not afraid of the hardship of working." "That's not acceptable," Simon Baker blurted out. "Why not?" I asked. Simon Baker frowned, a bit impatient. "Alice, let's be reasonable. There's no such thing as a man not working and staying home to take care of the child while his wife goes out to work. Besides, I earn more than you. How much money can you even make from working?" I sneered. "Just an extra 1,000. If it weren't for having a child delaying my career, I would have already been promoted to manager by now, with a salary of 15,000, 5,000 more than your current pay." Simon Baker's expression turned sour from my retort. Probably realizing I was angry, he softened his tone and said, "You love Lily so much, and I'm not good at taking care of children. I thought you'd definitely resign, which is why I suggested it." I stared at him quietly. The face I once found handsome had now become utterly detestable. "Simon Baker," I said, word by word, "I will not resign. The daughter isn't mine alone. Figure out what to do about her future yourself. Either you resign, or let your mother continue taking care of her alone." With that, I picked up my bag and, without even bothering about the child, hurriedly left the hospital bench. Simon Baker called my name from behind. My sleeping daughter woke up startled, crying loudly, "Alice, Lily is awake. Lily is looking for her mom. She's calling for her mom." Hearing his voice, I walked even faster, tears streaming down my face. I walked while sobbing, never looking back the entire time. I will never forget the day my daughter asked me to take a paternity test. I will never forget how she accepted the other woman as her mother and conspired with the rest of the family to keep it from me. I will never forget her vicious expression during the divorce. She said she didn't want to inherit my bad genes, but I don't have the genes for ingratitude and vanity that she possesses. These traits are unique to her father and her grandmother. My daughter Lily Baker was diagnosed with a rare disease at the age of 4. She has difficulty metabolizing the sugar in food, which leads to a series of symptoms. If left untreated and allowed to progress, her nerves will be damaged, her movement will be restricted, and she will become a person with intellectual disabilities who struggles to take care of herself. I was the first to notice her abnormalities. My daughter developed diarrhea and vomiting after eating, and it became increasingly severe. She often had a fever, and her eyes were bloodshot. My mother-in-law and husband thought it was just a cold and fever, so they didn't take it seriously. At the small clinic, the doctor also believed it was a viral infection and simply prescribed some medication. After returning home, they scolded me for making a fuss over nothing. I remained uneasy and specifically took my daughter to a well-known children's hospital for a checkup. The test results showed that our daughter has a gene mutation causing abnormal sugar metabolism. Why did the gene mutation occur? Was it hereditary, or was it because I ate spicy food and sweets during pregnancy? Holding the child, I sadly asked the doctor. The child has been weak and sickly since birth, and my mother-in-law keeps saying it's because I wasn't careful during pregnancy, eating spicy food, milk tea, and sweets, which made the child weak. Later, when our daughter had fevers and diarrhea multiple times, she often blamed me for not watching my diet during pregnancy, and even brought up the fact that I didn't put a hat on the baby during the postpartum period. But the doctor clearly said it was fine to eat spicy food and sweets during pregnancy, as long as it was in moderation during the postpartum period. In the summer, with temperatures over 30 degrees Celsius, my mother-in-law not only refused to turn on the air conditioner and dress the baby in long sleeves but also insisted on putting a hat and socks on the baby. I strictly objected, refusing to put socks or a hat on the baby and turning on the air conditioner, which completely angered my mother-in-law. Whenever the child spits up or gets sick, she always exclaims, See, you didn't listen to me, the child caught a chill, and now are you satisfied?" We often argue over this. I used to firmly believe I wasn't wrong, but now I'm not so sure anymore. The doctor said, "How can a college student think that way? Do you know what gene mutation is?" Gene mutation is a change at the genetic level and has nothing to do with eating spicy food or sweets. I was at a loss and asked tearfully, "But could eating spicy food or sweets have caused the gene mutation?" The doctor said, "If eating a bit of chili or sweets could cause genetic mutations, then the world would be full of people with genetic mutations. The causes of genetic mutations are very complex, and sometimes it's just a matter of luck. We need to test both your and your husband's genes to see if you carry any mutated pathogenic genes in order to confirm whether it's hereditary or not." After returning home, I told my husband and mother-in-law. My mother-in-law wailed in despair, "It must be your genes that are the problem. My son is tall and handsome, with a degree from a top-tier university, while you only graduated from an ordinary one. It must be your genes that are flawed." I retorted angrily. The doctor said it's most likely a genetic mutation, an accident. How could a perfectly fine situation suddenly mutate? There must be a reason. Either your genes are problematic, or you ate something inappropriate during pregnancy that caused the genetic issue. I was so angry that I had a big argument with her, and my husband quickly stepped in to mediate. The next day, Simon Baker and I took our daughter to the children's hospital again for a detailed examination. We had everything checked, whole exome, chromosomes, and more, spending tens of thousands. In the end, it turned out that both my husband's and my genes were normal, and our daughter's condition was due to a spontaneous genetic mutation. This illness is not incurable. It can be managed with medication and strict dietary control. By the time our daughter reaches adolescence, her symptoms will improve significantly. At the same time, our daughter needs to undergo various exercises and rehabilitation to prevent delays in her motor skills and intellectual development. Both my husband and I work. Previously, my mother was taking care of our child, but after my brother had a baby, my mother went to help him. Simon Baker then asked my mother-in-law to come and look after our child. My mother-in-law is lazy. As soon as I am home, she completely shirks her responsibilities, leaving all the housework and childcare to me. Simon Baker's workplace is far away, and he often works overtime and goes on business trips, so he can't help much. When I found out my daughter was sick, I made a list of precautions and asked my mother-in-law to strictly control my daughter's diet, especially sugar intake. That evening, I saw my mother-in-law feeding the child porridge. I rushed over and loudly stopped her. My mother-in-law was very angry. "What are you making a fuss about? I'm feeding her porridge, and I didn't add any sugar," I angrily said. "I just told you at noon that both congee and rice are starches, which are also sugars. You can't eat them." My mother-in-law flared up, slammed her bowl, and said, "Nonsense. Congee isn't sweet at all. Where's the sugar? You just can't stand me and are deliberately picking a fight. I won't help you take care of the child anymore. Take care of him yourself." After saying that, she stormed out, slamming the door. "If you won't Take care of him, then I'll do it myself. My blood boiled, and I quickly resigned to go home and focus on taking care of my child. My daughter's diet had to be handled with extreme care, and she needed frequent massages and exercise. I didn't trust anyone else to do it, so after much thought, I decided that taking care of her myself was the safest option, and so, I became a full-time homemaker at the time. I never imagined what consequences this decision, which seemed right at the moment, would bring upon me. With one less income in the family, Simon Baker had to support everyone on his own. The mortgage, car loans, and their daughter's high monthly expenses suddenly made his pressure skyrocket. As the pressure grew, so did his temper. We fell in love freely and got married. Before marriage, he was handsome and always went along with me in everything. We got along very happily. After marriage, when I got pregnant, my mother-in-law got involved, and our feelings gradually wore away amidst the daily grind of life. Later, I became a full-time housewife, and he was the sole breadwinner. The pressure was immense, and we often argued over trivial matters. At the core, it always came down to money. When a couple is poor, everything becomes a struggle. Apart from daily rehabilitation for our child, working on her cognitive and motor skills to ensure she didn't fall behind her peers, all I could do was find every possible way to save money, not buying clothes, cutting her own hair, giving up all hobbies, preparing separate meals for her daughter, and eating the cheapest food herself. She saved to the extreme. All the efforts paid off. When her daughter was in elementary school, she performed just like any other child. The doctor also said she was developing healthily in every aspect. However, another issue gradually became serious. As my daughter grew older, she developed vanity, a social circle, and a desire for snacks. After my mother-in-law left, she couldn't get used to staying in her hometown and often came to our house under the pretense of visiting her granddaughter. My husband gave her a key, and she would always show up unannounced, then linger without leaving. It's one thing to drop by unannounced, but the real issue is all the nitpicking as soon as they step inside. Oh my, the floor is so dirty. How many days has it been since you last mopped? Why haven't you thrown out the leftovers in the fridge? The child's clothes are dirty. Why haven't you changed her? As if without a job, I had to keep the house spotlessly clean, take meticulous care of the child, and serve the whole family. It's not that I never thought about divorce, but I couldn't bear to part with my daughter. Back then, I never considered another option. Not having the child, a mother's heart is soft. She fears that if she leaves the child behind in a divorce, a family that favors boys over girls might mistreat the child, neglect proper care, and ruin the child's life. But if I were to take the child away, it's just not realistic to work and raise a child alone. My mother-in-law stayed under the pretense of helping, but she often spoke ill of me to my daughter, and I caught her twice. It was another round of chaos and commotion. This household never has a peaceful day. When my mother-in-law occasionally buys snacks for my daughter, I get furious at the sight and throw them away, not letting her eat anything. To my daughter, this behavior seems completely unreasonable. Many people say that problematic children are the result of problematic parents. Only those who have experienced it know that sometimes parents feel powerless, especially when a mother has a low status and is fighting alone. Children simply won't listen to her. Grandma and dad often give her money to buy things and spoil her, while mom is always telling her what she can't do and what she can't eat. Over time, her heart has become biased. Dad and grandma are both good people, only mom is the bad one. She doesn't listen to what I say when it comes to her health. If she doesn't listen, I have to yell to make her comply. My daughter thinks I'm controlling her and making a fuss over every little thing. While it's true that I have sometimes overreacted, most of the time, I've had her best interests at heart, but doing so has only made her resent me more and more. She said, "I'm sick because you couldn't control your cravings during pregnancy, eating spicy food, eating sweets. And when I was still in confinement, you made me go out in the wind and catch a chill. It makes me so angry I could spit blood." My daughter wanted a phone, and I strongly opposed it, but her father bought her one to make her happy. Since then, my daughter has become addicted to scrolling through short videos and playing online games. The algorithm keeps pushing whatever you frequently watch. When she searched for "mom is very controlling," a flood of anti-PUA content and videos about escaping toxic family environments were pushed to her. Those online users encouraged her to run away from home and to defy me. An inexperienced child is too easily swayed, seeing me as an enemy. The relationship between my daughter and me is becoming increasingly strained. Around the time she was in 3rd grade, Simon Baker had already been promoted and received a salary increase, with his annual income later rising to $500,000, but he kept it from me the whole time, giving me 6,000 yuan each month and covering all household expenses as well as our daughter's medical bills. He visited prostitutes several times during that period and kept two mistresses. I had a vague sense of it but couldn't find any evidence. I also tried to find a job during that time. Although our daughter was in school care, she couldn't eat the cafeteria food, so I had to personally prepare her meals and deliver them. I need to do rehabilitation exercises 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. My daughter is ill and more prone to infections than other children, so we have to go to the hospital frequently. We also need to regularly check on the recovery of her main condition. I was completely tied down and couldn't leave. By the time I was 35, it became even harder to find a job. It wasn't until my daughter reached middle school that her condition stabilized completely. Her diet became less restrictive, and she no longer needed rehabilitation 3 times a day. Only then did I feel a lot more at ease. I thought the hard times were over and the good times had come, but I never expected that a woman would appear. That woman is named Caroline, divorced with a son, and Simon Baker is madly infatuated with her, wanting to marry her. Simon Baker took his daughter to meet Caroline several times, and my daughter actually didn't tell me. At that time, I was working as a stocker in a supermarket, leaving early and returning late every day with very low income. To save money, I often picked up leftover vegetables from the supermarket to bring home. Meanwhile, Simon Baker often took his daughter, Caroline, and his mother-in-law out for lavish meals and traveled under the pretext of visiting their hometown, enjoying a happy life with his mistress. The entire family kept it hidden from me. It wasn't until my daughter was in high school that I accidentally found out about it. I was devastated, but my daughter offered no comfort and even insisted on taking a paternity test. I asked, "Why?" She said, "I can sing and dance, and I'm pretty." "While you're fat and ugly and only know how to scold me, you definitely can't be my real mother. My mother should be like Aunt Caroline." Her words felt like 1,000 arrows piercing my heart. I said, "Whether you're my biological child or not, your father and grandmother know best. You used to say every day that I ate spicy food and sweets during pregnancy, which made you sick, meaning you acknowledged me as your real mother. Why are you suddenly denying it now?" She argued confidently. "Could it be that the hospital mixed us up? That's also a possibility. There was recently a news story about babies being switched at birth. I was thinking maybe we should look into it." I was so angry that I immediately took her for a paternity test. When the results came out, she burst into tears. "Impossible. How could I possibly be your biological daughter? I don't want your lousy genes." She said my genes are lousy. She said Dad's genes are good, but mine are bad. My genes are poor, which is why she got sick. She thinks her dad is handsome and looks young, while I'm fat and old. She's afraid my genes will affect her, making her fat and ugly too. Genes again. I looked at her sadly, my heart aching. I used to think my grandmother was being difficult and had a bad influence on her. She's young and doesn't know any better, so it's understandable that she opposes me. I tolerated it time and again, explained things over and over, yet she still turned out like this. Now I fully understand that genetics are a mysterious thing. No matter how you teach or how much you give, you'll still end up raising a selfish, heartless creature. She even had a genetic mutation and became something even less human. Simon Baker is very bad. At the very least, he always defends his mother, while Lily Baker doesn't even want her own biological mother. At that time, I felt like I wanted to die. Even worse was yet to come. His father had an affair and wants me to leave with nothing, marrying Caroline instead. My daughter didn't hesitate to side with her father, telling me to get out and accepting Caroline as her mother. Simon Baker transferred all his money to his mother and Caroline's names long ago, keeping it hidden from me. Even if I take it to court, I have no chance of winning. I've stopped trying to reason with Simon Baker because I know it's useless. I tried to appeal to my daughter with emotion. "Lily, I'm your mother. I've done so much for you." She impatiently cut me off, saying, "Here we go again. What have you contributed? Being a full-time housewife without earning a single penny, always asking Dad for money, and thinking you're something special just by doing a bit of housework. Who cares about your so-called contributions?" My face turned ashen, and my heart felt utterly lifeless. At that moment, I was overwhelmed with despair and thought of death. Little did I know that I would actually die later. Probably God couldn't stand it anymore, so he let me live again. On the way home, my mind was a mess, suddenly reborn. Everything felt both familiar and strange. I felt sad for a while, wiped away my tears, and decided to get a divorce. I absolutely do not want children, that kind of ungrateful scum with rotten genes. Who would want them? When I arrived at the residential complex, I was lost in thought as I walked toward Building 3, passing by the central garden. I suddenly heard a familiar sound of crying and arguing. What did I do to deserve this? Back then, I told her not to eat spicy food, not to drink milk tea, but she insisted. When she was in confinement, I told her to put a hat on the baby, but she refused, and now, The child is seriously ill. It's all because of her. I walked over and saw my mother-in-law complaining tearfully to some neighbors in the complex. She spoke with tears in her voice, as if the child's illness was all my fault. I asked, "What are you doing?" My mother-in-law wiped away her tears and turned around, shouting, "I'm talking about you. You made the child sick. How much will it cost to treat the illness in the future?" Simon Baker had already called her and told her the results. She couldn't accept the fact that her daughter was sick, so she ran into the neighborhood crying and making a scene, blaming everything on me. "The child's illness is due to a genetic mutation, and you insist on pinning it on me," I said angrily. "If not you, then who?" My mother-in-law raised her voice, repeating the same old argument about how eating spicy food and drinking milk tea caused the illness. I retorted angrily, "Other people eat spicy food without any issues, but I get sick from it. I only drank milk tea twice, and that made the child sick. I don't blame you for being uneducated, but if you're going to be both stupid and malicious just to spite me, don't blame me for not being polite. In my past life, I had reservations. Even when arguing, I held back and never spoke harsh words. In this life, I won't hold back." "What did you say? You called me stupid and vicious." My mother-in-law widened her eyes and pointed her finger at me, the tip almost poking. A surge of anger rushed through me. Without thinking, I slapped her across the face. "What are you yelling about, you old hag? It's because you keep feeding the child random things all day that she got sick. Why don't you just drop dead? I've held back this slap for 20 years in this lifetime. Go crazy, you hit me." My mother-in-law couldn't believe it, standing frozen for a long moment before she finally reacted, trembling with rage. I slapped her again with a sharp crack. "Yes, I hit you right after the baby was born. The doctor said she could only have milk, nothing else, and you secretly fed her rice paste. Before the age of 1, she shouldn't have salt or sugar, and you secretly gave them to her. It's all your fault. It must be because you fed her all that random stuff that caused her gene mutation. Who doesn't know how to shift blame and slander others?" I used to endure it for the sake of my child. Although she was utterly detestable, she could still handle some household chores and help out in emergencies, giving me a chance to catch my breath. Because of this small benefit, I tried my best to avoid conflict. Plus, since I wasn't earning money and had to rely on her son financially, I would only argue when I absolutely couldn't take it anymore. Over nearly 20 years, she only grew worse, lording it over me and acting like a tyrant. "Now I won't hold back anymore. You hit me," the mother-in-law wailed. "People in the past survived on rice paste and sugar water. What's wrong with me feeding him a little rice paste? How dare you blame me? Bah, it's all your fault. It's because you fed him randomly that the child got sick." I repaid her in kind, insisting with her own tactics that she was the one who harmed my daughter. No matter how she tried to defend herself, I turned a deaf ear. My mother-in-law cried even harder. The others exchanged uneasy glances. I turned to the crowd and said, "Listen up, this old hag is right. I am a shrew. She deserves to be beaten for making my daughter sick. If I hear any of you spreading rumors about me, I'll curse every one of you I see and dump trash at your doorsteps." "Got it." The others quickly ran away, seeing that no one was helping. The mother-in-law stopped pretending to be a victim and jumped up, trying to slap me. "Seriously, does she really think her old bones can hit me?" I kicked her right into the nearby greenbelt. Since my mother-in-law keeps calling me a shrew behind my back every day, I might as well live up to the name. My mother-in-law lay in the greenbelt, crying and wailing, claiming she was injured and shouting, "My daughter-in-law is hitting me. My daughter-in-law is hitting me." I said coldly, "Keep wailing. Let's see if anyone pays you any attention." She wailed even louder. I said, "Are you lying there not getting up because you want to extort money from me? Fine. How much do you want? I'll call your son right now and have him give it to you. After all, we're married, and the money he earns is mine." My mother-in-law choked up, and after a moment, she cried, "I'm going to sue you and have you thrown in jail." I said, "Go ahead. If I go to jail, your son will have a wife who's been to prison. Let's see if the company still dares to keep him." My mother-in-law's body stiffened. She doesn't know much about the law, but she knows that in many workplaces, if a family member goes to prison, her own job will be affected. I continued, "Going to prison, I'd welcome it. In prison, I wouldn't have to work or do anything. Your granddaughter is sick now, so you'll have to take care of a sick child and do all the housework while serving your son. If you have the guts, send me to prison right away and take care of both the child and your son yourself. If you can't do it, then get out of the way and stop blocking others." After saying that, I turned and left. My mother-in-law was utterly embarrassed but stubbornly continued to lie there. With so many people watching, not a single one stepped forward to help her up. My mother-in-law talks behind my back, and some ignorant people, especially the elderly, believe her nonsense, but young people don't buy it. Which young person nowadays doesn't eat some spicy food during pregnancy? We live in a city known for its love of spicy cuisine, not to mention many young pregnant women still indulge in milk tea and coffee. She was chattering away in the neighborhood, And the elderly who shared her views agreed, but she didn't realize that she had already offended other young mothers and expectant mothers. They all disliked their mothers-in-law. After I left, my mother-in-law lay on the ground wailing for a while, but when no one paid her any attention, she had no choice but to get up sheepishly. She had been doing farm work in the countryside for a long time and was in excellent physical condition. When I kicked her, she fell onto the greenery, so she wasn't hurt at all. She complained to the person next to her, "My daughter-in-law hit me. And you saw it with your own eyes. Why didn't you help?" That person shrugged and said, "Your daughter-in-law is so fierce. What if she hits me?" I found it amusing when I heard that. It was clear that person didn't want to help the mother-in-law and was just using me as an excuse. It seems there are many sensible people in this world. Not all are as heartless and ungrateful as Simon Baker's family. After dealing with my mother-in-law, I felt refreshed and invigorated. In my past life, I had thought about going crazy, but I had a weakness, my daughter, but now it's different. I have no weaknesses, and no one can control me. My mother-in-law had no choice. She couldn't extort money from me because I would definitely ask her son for it. She also couldn't have me sent to jail. If I really went to jail, all the household chores and responsibilities would fall on her, and in the end, she would be the one to suffer. So she had no choice but to take the beating for nothing. Not long after I returned home, my mother-in-law also came back and stood outside my room, loudly cursing and claiming that I had injured her. "You ungrateful wretch, having a daughter-in-law like you is the worst luck in 8 lifetimes. I've been taking care of your child, helping you with all my heart, and you hit me. Don't ever expect my help again." I swung the door open with a loud crash and retorted, "You always say you're helping me with the child, but let me ask you, is the child mine alone? Your son promised that if I gave birth, he would raise the child, but what's the reality? We both work, we both provide. When I come home from work, I do the housework and take care of the child, staying up all night to soothe them to sleep. What has your son done, aside from giving a little money? What has he contributed? Are you really helping me? You're helping your son." With that, I slammed the door shut. Outside, I could hear my mother-in-law wailing, but I paid no attention. Not long after, Simon Baker came home carrying our daughter. My mother-in-law immediately rushed out to complain, crying and carrying on, wailing and throwing a fit. Simon Baker placed the child on the sofa and sat down beside them, panting from exhaustion. "Your wife hit me. You have to hit her back, otherwise, she'll think she can get away with anything." His mother-in-law grabbed him and refused to let go. A short while later, my door was being pounded loudly. "Alice, how could you hit my mom?" Simon Baker roared outside the door. He was quite a filial son, always defending his mother and everything. I forcefully opened the door and said coldly, "She insulted me first, spreading rumors everywhere that I ate spicy food and sweets during pregnancy, causing the child to get sick. Once, twice, 3 times. I've long had enough of it." Simon Baker angrily retorted, "No matter what, you can't lay a hand on her. She's an elder." I retorted, "What's so great about being an elder? Does being an elder mean you can be unreasonable? If she had been reasonable, she wouldn't have gotten hit." I didn't back down and started arguing with Simon Baker on the sofa nearby. My daughter's eyelids fluttered, and she opened her eyes. "Dad, Grandma." She sat up groggily. "Why do you all look so young?" This sentence made me freeze for a moment. Lily Baker looked around. "Is this the old house? Didn't we move to the new home?" I suddenly realized that my daughter had also been reborn. After making money, Simon Baker secretly bought a large house under Caroline's name, supporting Caroline and her son, and often brought our daughter and mother-in-law over to visit. During the time we were going through our divorce, their family simply moved into the large house, leaving me alone in the old one. 4-year-old Lily Baker couldn't possibly know about this. She must have been reborn. Rebirth is a good thing. She's only 4 years old now, just diagnosed with a rare disease. Without my care, let her experience firsthand what hell is like. As for Simon Baker, who looks down on me for not making money and thinks he's so great, let him take on the burden of a child and see if he can still achieve career success. Seeing me act so shrewish, my mother-in-law cried, "Is there no justice left? Is there no justice left?" Simon Baker never expected that I wouldn't admit any fault at all. Furious and hot-headed, he shouted, "Divorce." I couldn't ask for more. "Let's get divorced then. Whoever doesn't divorce is a coward." My daughter quickly ran to Simon Baker's side. "Dad, if you get divorced, I'll go with you." "Get lost." My mother-in-law pushed her away. "Who would want a sickly child like you? Your illness is all your mother's fault. Go with your mother. Don't think you can cling to us." My daughter fell to the ground, her eyes filled with shock. She never thought that her grandmother would abandon her. I asked my daughter, "Lily, if your dad and I get divorced, who would you choose to live with?" She snapped back to reality, glared at me, and said, "Of course I'd choose Dad." who would want to live with a control freak like you? Perfect. In her past life, she didn't choose me, and in this life, she still doesn't choose me. I'm not surprised at all, I said. There's a saying, better to follow a beggar mother than a wealthy father. Do you understand what that means? I didn't actually want her, but I needed her to say with her own mouth that she wanted to stay with her father. That way, in the future when she suffers the consequences, she can't try to use our mother-daughter bond to guilt trip me. She snapped at me. Dad and Grandma are good to me. I want to stay with them. You don't need to worry about it. While speaking, she secretly observed Simon Baker and her mother-in-law to see how they would react. She had always been like this before, putting me down to please her mother-in-law and Simon Baker, since the whole family relied on Simon Baker for support, and both he and my mother-in-law disliked me. My daughter naturally sided with the stronger party and joined in bullying me. I nodded and said, you said it yourself. If your dad ever abandons you in the future, don't come looking for me. It'd be best if we never see each other again. She was a bit angry. After the divorce, no one will support you. Who are you going to ask for money? It's laughable. You can't even support yourself and you want to support me. Are you out of your mind? I absolutely won't be with you. Hearing those familiar words, I was momentarily stunned, then smiled. I used to not believe in genetic determinism because everyone said that children are like blank slates, shaped entirely by their parents' teaching, but now I understand that some people's genes have already determined the outcome. When someone teaches a daughter both good and bad things at the same time, the daughter will inevitably choose to learn the bad rather than the good. For example, I tell her to study hard, but Grandma lets her watch TV. She will definitely choose to watch TV instead of studying. I tell her to exercise more and not play with her phone. If Dad hands her the phone, she will definitely choose to play with it instead of doing exercises. It seems that being dim-witted is a trait passed down through your Baker family, I said. Who do I need to ask for money? I have a job, a salary, and I can support myself. Do you even think before you speak? You're insulting me, Dad. Look, she's insulting me. The daughter turned to Simon Baker for help. Simon Baker completely ignored her. Dad, she refused to give up and tugged at Simon Baker's clothes. Simon Baker, in a fit of anger, snapped, what are you yelling about? Grown-up matters are none of your business. How dare you look down on your own mother? You must be sick in the head. Get back to your mother right now. The daughter trembled slightly and immediately fell silent. I said, don't even think about it. If she's sure she wants to follow you, don't come blaming me later. Simon Baker glared fiercely at Lily Baker, his face twisted in anger, and shouted, why would you want to follow me? The daughter was frightened by his terrifying appearance and took a step back. In her previous life, the daughter spent the most time with me. I forced her to eat food and medicine she disliked, took care of her daily needs, and occasionally, overwhelmed by life, I would yell and lose my temper, nagging incessantly. Her father, on the other hand, only saw her after work each day, and most of the time, he was gentle and kind, so my daughter has always thought that her dad is emotionally stable and good-tempered, while I am emotionally unstable and bad-tempered. In reality, Simon Baker has a very bad temper. He would lose his temper, slam the door, and walk away, not caring about the chaos left behind at home. Over time, my daughter would come to think that her dad is perfect in every way, while I am flawed in every way now. She had personally experienced her father's good temper. Alice, you hit my mom. Are you going to apologize or not? Simon Baker was still holding a grudge. I said, why should I? Under his mother's instigation, Simon Baker flew into a rage. If you don't apologize, we're getting divorced. I immediately agreed. All right. A group of us went to the Civil Affairs Bureau with a fierce demeanor. At the Civil Affairs Bureau, we argued again over the custody of our daughter. My mother-in-law said bluntly, if you want a divorce, take the girl with you. Simon Baker also said, Alice, don't you like children? I'll give you the daughter, I said, trying to dump the burden on me. No way, we can get a divorce, but I won't take the child. Everyone watched us arguing, their faces filled with disdain. I knew what they were looking down on. Parents who don't want their children are despicable. Right, whatever, then we won't part. Simon Baker calmed down. Alice, let's go home. Don't make a scene here and let others laugh at us. Our daughter quickly added, Mom, stop making a fuss, let's just go home. Their words made it sound like I was the one being unreasonable. I shouted loudly, wasn't it you who brought up the divorce? How did it become me making a scene? Who is the one insisting on getting a divorce just now? You hit my mom. I was just acting out of anger. Simon Baker defended himself, saying to everyone, my wife hit my mom. I only acted like this because I was furious. I walked over and slapped my unsuspecting mother-in-law across the face, then, to everyone's Astonishment slapped Simon Baker as well. Not only did I hit your mom, but I'm going to hit you too, you jerk. Do we get divorced or not? Simon Baker covered his face, trembling with anger. You all be the judge. Look at this shrew. I slapped his other cheek with a sharp crack. Yes, I am a shrew. Are we getting a divorce or not? Divorce or not? My mother-in-law couldn't take it anymore and jumped over to slap me. I grabbed her hair and started slapping her wildly like a madwoman. You old hag, spreading rumors everywhere, gossiping about me behind my back, cursing me every day. Just thinking about the stupid things you did when I was in confinement makes me want to beat you to death. You useless, lazy thing, you deserve to die. Are we getting a divorce or not? Divorce or not? Enough, let's get a divorce, Simon Baker roared. If you want a divorce, then so be it. The child can go with you, I said. Our daughter wants to be with you. Our daughter stepped back to Simon Baker's sighed and said, I want Dad. Mom mistreats me. I don't want to be with Mom, I said. See, Simon Baker panicked upon hearing this. He was willing to divorce, but he didn't want a sick child. In the end, he backtracked, saying, if you don't take the child, don't even think about getting a divorce. My mother-in-law also desperately refused, hurling a torrent of abuse at me, using the filthiest language imaginable. The ugly faces they revealed left everyone exchanging uneasy glances. I thought the divorce was the woman's fault. But now I realize things aren't that simple. It takes two to tango. Simon Baker refused a divorce, so we had to go back. I knew it wouldn't work out. If I leave after the divorce, who will be the nanny? Who will take care of our daughter? His biological mother, who only knows how to talk big, is lazy and foolish. He knows perfectly well that the disadvantages of divorce outweigh the advantages, so he wants to drag me along. But I no longer love the child. If he wants to drag me along, it depends on whether I'm willing to play along. After returning home, I immediately packed my things and left. Just as he had done countless times before, he ignored everything and simply walked away. I rented an apartment, spent the remaining money on clothes, jewelry, and skincare products, and also sent some money to my mother, labeling it as childcare expenses. Currently, our salaries aren't high. After paying the mortgage and deducting living expenses, there isn't much money left. I've been saving everywhere, but what's the point of saving now? Simon Baker called me countless times, so I blocked him. Then I gathered all the necessary documents and filed for divorce in court. In the following days, I went to work as usual and shopped whenever I felt like it. The divorce lawsuit is very troublesome. Simon Baker is not cooperating, and the progress is extremely slow. In this world, getting married is easy, but getting divorced is difficult. If you can't reach an agreement in a divorce by mutual consent, you won't be able to get divorced. Even if an agreement is reached, there is a mandatory cooling-off period, during which if one party changes their mind, the divorce cannot proceed. Litigation for divorce requires submitting a lot of materials. If one party does not cooperate, the process alone can drag on for a year or two. After the lawsuit, the first trial usually results in a denial of divorce, and then the process starts all over again for a second lawsuit. Divorce is fraught with difficulties, but no matter how difficult it is, it must be done. And one day while I was at work, I suddenly received a call from my mother-in-law. I picked up the phone casually, ready to scold her, when I suddenly heard my daughter's childish voice. Mom, have you been reborn? Otherwise, why are you getting a divorce? I paused for a moment. Is that you? What's the matter? Lily Baker said. Are you blaming me for not helping you during the divorce in your past life? It's really ridiculous. Just take a look at your own temper and think about the things you've done. How could a child like that, parents like you never think they're at fault and never reflect on themselves? I said. Spit it out if you have something to say. My daughter probably didn't expect me to be so cold. After a pause, she said angrily, stop being so moody and come back to cook for me. What? Cooking? I'm sick, so someone has to cook for me. I never expected her to make such a request, and with such a sense of entitlement. I was so angry I laughed. You want me to cook for you? Why don't you ask your grandma or your dad to do it? My daughter said. They don't know how. I said. Do you think I was born knowing how? If you don't know, you can learn. After saying that, I slammed the phone down, taking a deep breath. I calmed myself down, telling myself not to get angry over an ungrateful person. It's not worth it. Over the weekend, I made a special trip back to my hometown and had my mother open a separate bank card for me. I set up various financial accounts, set the password privately, and once everything was done, I took the card with me. Mom asked, Alice, what are you doing with my bank card? I said, it's for work. Don't worry, I won't do anything reckless. I want to transfer the money I have into this card. My mother loves me and doesn't spend money recklessly, but she lacks strong opinions and is easily swayed by my father and younger brother. I don't trust my father and that good For nothing brother of mine at all. Whenever there's a bit of money in the family, they squander it, so I simply won't tell my mother. Back in the city, I gradually withdrew cash and deposited it bit by bit into this bank account opened under my mother's name. It wasn't much money, just around 70,000. After that, whenever I received my salary, I would also gradually withdraw cash and deposit it into this account. This way, the money became money under my mother's name. Divorce involves investigating joint property, which includes examining the bank transaction records of both parties. Each time I withdraw a small amount of cash, even if the court later wants to check the transaction records, it will be difficult to trace where the money went. Of course, if it's a large amount of cash, it will definitely be investigated. For small amounts like mine, it's impossible to trace. Transferring marital assets this way won't move much, so I still need to adopt other methods. I have a friend who got divorced and makes a living by running a bakery. After having a heart-to-heart talk with her, she was very supportive of me. After that, I kept buying various pastries from her shop at 10 times the price, and she would return the extra money to me. I delivered the pastries to my daughter as takeout. In her previous life, my daughter always wanted to eat pastries and sweets, but I kept stopping her. While her grandmother and father secretly bought them for her, she thought those two were very kind and hated me for being too strict. In this life, I often give as a good person. As for whether she eats it or not, I don't care anyway. The money is in my hands now. Even if they check the transaction records later, I can say it was all used for living expenses, and no one can argue. I used the same method to buy my daughter's clothes and other things at extremely high prices. In this way, I almost completely depleted my own salary. Others might think I'm ruthless, but Simon Baker was even more ruthless. In his previous life. He directly concealed his salary, telling me it was only 10,000, and gradually transferred the remaining money over the course of several years. Banks can only check transaction records for up to 5 years, and since I didn't know his annual salary, I didn't investigate at all, so I was completely taken advantage of during the divorce. Now I'm just giving them a taste of their own medicine. In reality, all I could do was withdraw my own salary. His money is in his own hands, and I can't touch a single cent of it. I took my mom's bank card and used her account to buy stocks. In my previous life, I was a housewife, racking my brains to make money, specifically studying financial management, and frequently keeping an eye on the capital markets. I knew exactly how high certain stocks would rise in the future and how long it would take for them to have in value. As long as I held onto them long enough and cashed out at the right time during the peak, I would be financially secure for life. Oh, and these aren't stocks from the A-share market, they're from the US stock market and NASDAQ. Don't doubt it, more than a decade from now, the A-share market will still be fighting the battle to defend the 3,000-point mark. Buying A-shares is like asking for trouble. After doing all this, I went about my life as usual, eating and sleeping well, living very comfortably. The divorce proceedings entered a lengthy process, seeing that I really wasn't coming home and wasn't taking care of the child anymore. Simon Baker left the child with his mother and continued with his life as usual. He is a real man. A real man should gallop through the workplace and make a name for himself. How could he possibly take care of children? Taking care of them is out of the question. The trivialities of life suddenly fell onto the mother-in-law's shoulders. She doesn't have time to chat with people in the neighborhood for an hour and talk bad about me, nor does she have time to gossip about how useless I am while dancing in the square, saying I only rely on her son. It's even more impossible for her to leisurely stroll around and come back acting all high and mighty. She's at home alone doing housework and taking care of the kids, and it's really tough, but with no one to share the burden, and Simon Baker having gone out to work again, she had nowhere to vent her anger and started hitting the child. Her daughter finally understood the true face of the grandmother who claimed to care for her. Alice, are you really not going to take care of the child? One day, I ran into a friend on the street, and she seemed hesitant to speak. I asked, "What's wrong?" My friend, knowing about my daughter's illness, looked very anxious and said, "Do you know how your mother-in-law takes care of the child? How does she take care of her? She doesn't avoid sugar at all." My friend told me what happened after I left. Mother-in-law was a lazy person. At first, following Simon Baker's instructions, she reluctantly prepared separate meals for her daughter as advised by the doctor. After just a few days, she found it troublesome and started slacking off, no longer making separate meals for her daughter. She cooked the same food for both adults and children. "Eat it or not, don't be picky," she said. Fortunately, her daughter was reborn and knew she couldn't eat plain rice during this period. She reluctantly ate the dishes and even had to use a stool to cook for herself, which was very difficult. This is also The reason she suddenly called me and asked me to go back to cook for her, since my mother-in-law doesn't even want to cook, her rehabilitation has naturally been dragging on. She just goes through the motions and ends it quickly, never putting in the same effort as I did. Later, she simply slacked off and stopped doing it altogether. My daughter has never liked doing various exercises or sports. In the past, when I forced her, she held a grudge against me. Now that my mother-in-law doesn't make her do it, she's happy to take it easy. My mother-in-law doesn't cook separately for my daughter. After making 2 meals herself, my daughter found it troublesome. Besides, she never thought her condition was serious and believed I was just overreacting, so she simply started eating with my mother-in-law. She knows she shouldn't eat sugar, but she can't control herself. In the past, I kept an eye on her, but now with no one to supervise, she can't resist eating sugar. I saw Lily eating cake in the neighborhood last time, my friend said. How can that be? Cake is very high in sugar. I smiled and said, since her father and grandmother don't care, why should I? My friend replied, but she's your daughter. I said coldly, so what? When we were getting divorced, she chose to go against her father and me. I can't control an ungrateful wretch like her, so let her be. My friend was dumbfounded. Litigation for divorce is troublesome, so I haven't given up on reaching a settlement. When the time was about right, I went home with my luggage. Why are you back? Didn't you say you weren't coming back? My mother-in-law rushed to the living room upon hearing the noise and greeted me with a sarcastic, resentful tone. My daughter also came out after hearing the commotion. When she saw me, she curled her lips and said, I thought you were so tough, but in the end, you still came back, didn't you? I ignored them and went straight to the bedroom. In the evening, I came out and personally cooked a table full of dishes. My daughter walked into the kitchen. You don't need to cook separately for me. I'm fine with eating regular meals, I said expressionlessly. It's not for you, don't flatter yourself. My daughter was unhappy and pouted. Back then, you said I couldn't eat ordinary food, you wouldn't let me eat this or that, but now, I've been eating normally for 2 months, and nothing has happened. I raised an eyebrow. Are you saying I was wrong to cook specially for you and not let you eat snacks back then? Of course it's wrong, my daughter said. The meals you cook by yourself are so bad, I don't want to eat them at all. I nodded and said, all right, I was wrong, she said. Rehabilitation isn't necessary either. That thing is useless. You can do some cleaning, wash the clothes. Grandma often piles up my clothes for a whole week before washing them. She complained a few times and asked me to help her wash the clothes. I ignored her. She went out unhappily. In the evening, Simon Baker heard that I had returned and deliberately rushed home early, even buying a bouquet of roses in an attempt to talk about feelings with me. I pretended to be happy as I took the flowers and softened my attitude. I cooked a whole table of dishes myself tonight. Everyone, please eat. The family gathered around the dining table. Even though they disliked me, they pretended to be magnanimous, holding their noses and tolerating me, as they still wanted me to continue being their nanny. I brought out a bottle of wine and encouraged Simon Baker to drink. Simon Baker thought I was giving in, so he drank half the bottle. He drank it and then passed out dead. I carried him into the house, used his finger to unlock his phone, and scrolled through the chat history. In his previous life, Simon Baker personally admitted that after his daughter was diagnosed with the illness, he had sought out prostitutes a few times due to the immense pressure. I've been waiting all along. Soon I came across a WeChat account named Purchasing Jane, and their chat history was extremely explicit. Because of the note Purchasing Jane, it was easy to mistake her for a work contact. Who would have thought she was a prostitute? Their chat history was filled with all kinds of suggestive messages, nude photos, and discussions about pricing, things like $500 for the full service, $800 for overnight, and how much for certain special positions, etc. After taking screenshots of all the chat records, I continued checking them one by one. As expected, I found more chat records where he privately complained about his boss and the company with his friends. He called his boss a stingy, bald, useless waste of space, and criticized the company as corrupt, with incompetent and foolish people in charge. Simon Baker is arrogant and looks down on everyone, but unfortunately, his current treatment is not great, and he's filled with resentment when he scolds people. He dares to say anything, even touching on some very sensitive topics. I didn't hesitate to take photos of everything and upload them to my email. The next day, Simon Baker went to work, and I followed him to the company. He was very surprised to see me. What are you doing here? I said. Simon Baker, divorce. Seeing my sudden change in attitude, he got angry, looked around, and lowered his voice. What are you making a fuss about again? I said. If you don't want to lose your job, you'd better be sensible. I sent the photo to his WeChat. Look at your phone. Simon Baker picked up his phone with a puzzled expression, then his face changed dramatically. Alice, you actually went through my chat history. What are you trying to do? Divorce? I shook my phone. If you don't agree, I'll walk into your company right now and show this photo to everyone. Career was Simon Baker's life. He had said in his past life that there was an early opportunity for promotion at that time. An opportunity was right in front of him, requiring a 6-month assignment abroad. The company favored both him and another candidate. Simon Baker's competitor hesitated due to family reasons, but Simon Baker agreed without a second thought and seized the opportunity. At that time, his daughter needed to undergo a critical rehabilitation checkup, and he agreed without a second thought. After all, family always came after career. After being sent on a 6-month assignment, he returned and received a promotion and a raise. That time, it was probably around this time, so he really wanted me to come back to take care of the family, so he could go out without any worries. Yesterday, when he found out I was coming home, he even bought flowers without holding a grudge, drank the wine I poured without hesitation, and acted all affectionate. Everything he did was to keep me here so he could be sent abroad, but now I'm threatening him with the photos. If his boss really sees the photos, forget about a promotion or a raise, he'd probably be kicked out. This company is very well known and extremely difficult to get into. After a promotion, the annual salary is very high, so he doesn't want to give it up. Fine, let's get a divorce, he replied through gritted teeth. The child goes to you, I said. Fine, the child is mine. All right, he raged helplessly. Divorce truly reveals a person's character. Simon Baker believes that since the child belongs to him, the property should also belong to him. I was so angry I laughed, and I firmly refused, insisting on an equal split. An equal split means dividing the marital property. I laundered my own money, and not a single cent was left. He didn't believe me. I said, then let's check the transaction records. He said, check them. We went to the bank to check the transaction records. My financial flow was clear and traceable, but he ended up uncovering some personal expenses that had to be reimbursed. If you want my used cosmetics and women's coats, I don't mind selling them and splitting the money, I said, but your clothes and belongings also need to be listed for sale, and we'll split the proceeds. Simon Baker threw a tantrum but couldn't do anything about it, and just like that, I ended up with $150,000 in cash to prevent him from going all out. I made a slight concession. I don't want the house anymore. Consider it as a one-time payment for alimony. We got into another argument over the alimony. I said, fine, if you want alimony, then the house must be sold, and we'll split it 50-50. I'll send you money every month from now on, but whether I can actually send it every month, we'll see about that later. Simon Baker immediately began to calculate upon hearing this. The house is currently worth a lot, and selling it in a hurry wouldn't be cost-effective. If I'm forced to sell it to pay child support, I might not comply, as there are many cases where child support isn't paid after a divorce. All right. Seeing that I hadn't gained any advantage, Simon Baker signed without hesitation. I was secretly pleased too, thinking that next year housing prices would plummet, and that shabby house wouldn't sell for much anyway. Might as well give it to him. After a 1-month cooling-off period, I finally received the divorce certificate. The moment I got the certificate, I was so excited I almost cried. On the day of the divorce, my daughter came along and asked me, Mom, are you really getting divorced? I said, yes. She asked in confusion, you know Dad will be able to make $500,000 a year in the future, right? Why get a divorce? Just stick with him, be a bit nicer, and you won't have to worry for the rest of your life. I said, have you forgotten about Caroline? My daughter said, who told you to be old, ugly, and bad-tempered? It's understandable that Dad had an affair. I stared at her blankly. My daughter's words and actions have always been bizarre, and I could never understand them. Now I realize that perhaps her illness has affected her mind, making her act foolishly. I nodded and said, fine, that's understandable. I just hope you won't come crying and begging me later. My daughter said, what you're saying clearly shows you haven't recognized your own mistakes. You're just stubborn and unyielding. Let me tell you, I won't eat the food you cook, and I won't do the exercises you demand, and there's nothing wrong with that. Back when our family was in such a difficult situation, with constant arguments, the problem was with you. Don't you realize that? If you had realized it, I wouldn't have argued with you, Grandma and Dad wouldn't have argued with you, and Dad wouldn't have cheated either. I gave her a thumbs up and turned to leave. She genuinely felt that my forcing her in a previous life was unnecessary. For the past 2 months, my daughter had been indulging in snacks and rice without any physical issues. After the divorce, she completely let go, eating with her grandmother, snacking, and no longer restricting her diet like many diabetics. She knew that eating sugar could cause problems, but as long as her body showed no abnormalities, she always held on to a sense of fluke mentality. Half a month later, one day, she suddenly experienced paralysis in half of her body, and her vision became blurry. She begged her mother-in-law to take her to the hospital, but her mother-in-law, afraid of spending money, scolded her for making a fuss over nothing and firmly refused to go. It wasn't until Simon Baker came home that she was finally taken to the hospital. Upon examination, her blood sugar was extremely high and had already damaged her nerves. My daughter is in the hospital, and Simon Baker wants to go on a business trip for 6 months, but his mother-in-law won't allow it. You want to dump her on me and leave for 6 months? How could you even think of that? She's your daughter, not mine. The mother-in-law is lazy and selfish. There's no way she could take care of a sick child alone for 6 months. Simon Baker couldn't handle her complaints and had to cancel his business trip. After hesitating for a moment, someone in the company volunteered to fill the vacancy, and Simon Baker missed the opportunity for an overseas assignment. If he wanted to wait for another chance for a promotion and a raise, he had no idea how long it would take. After some time, I resigned, terminated my lease, and after handling my personal matters, I decided to deal with him before leaving. Back then, I forced him to divorce using his chat records of soliciting prostitutes. He doesn't know that I still have the chat records of him badmouthing his boss in the company. Now that we're divorced, I anonymously sent those shocking chat records to his boss at that company. Simon Baker can forget about getting a promotion or a raise. If he doesn't get fired, he should consider himself lucky. After our daughter returned from the hospital, her health completely deteriorated. The doctor told her that because she did not control her diet, it caused permanent damage to every part of her body. Even if she maintained a strict diet in the future, she would not be able to live like a normal person. To make matters worse, her mother-in-law and Simon Baker knew she could not recover and disliked her intensely, refusing to provide treatment. After all, treatment was a costly expense and required dedicated care, which was too much trouble. In my previous life, I did not mind the trouble and took care of her wholeheartedly. She, however, thought that what I did was meaningless, talking back, looking down on me, and putting her father on a pedestal. Now she should understand just how important those meaningless things of mine were. Simon Baker felt that his daughter had hindered his career prospects, and he was filled with resentment. Her mother-in-law believed that a daughter couldn't carry on the family line, and she was also an obstacle to Simon Baker's second marriage. Now that she was seriously ill and needed money, she was seen as nothing but a burden, better off dead. Without much hesitation, they gave up on treatment, gave up on rehabilitation, gave up on everything, leaving their daughter to fend for herself. Fortunately, the daughter was not truly a young child. She didn't want to die, so at a tender age, she dragged her sickly body to cook for herself and carry out her own rehabilitation. She finally understood that my harshness toward her back then was for her own good. She wanted to contact me, but she had no way to reach me. I resigned and moved to another city to start a new life. A few years later, I returned to my hometown for the new year. As I reached the village entrance, a thin figure suddenly rushed over and stopped me. After staring for a moment, she hesitantly called out, "Mom." It took me a while to recognize her, and I was overwhelmed with mixed emotions. "Oh, Lily." My daughter looked at me, her eyes filled with shock, and said, "Mom, you're so beautiful." After not seeing each other for a few years, I was wearing a neat camel-colored coat. My hair was tied up. I had kept my figure in good shape, maintained my appearance with medical aesthetics, looked very young, and had even put on a little makeup. She was extremely thin and frail, with withered skin, like an elderly person in their twilight years. I brushed my hair back and said, "I don't have to take care of you, don't have to do housework every day, don't have to worry about money, don't have to scrimp and save. I have money, free time, and I know how to dress up. So of course I'm beautiful, just like your father in my past life." The daughter murmured. I asked, "What do you need from me?" She fell to her knees with a thud, crying, "I was wrong, Mom. I want to stay with you." I said, "Didn't you want to stay with your dad?" She said, "He completely ignores me and even hits and yells at me. 2 years ago, he got fired and couldn't bring himself to look for a lower-paying job. He blames me for holding back his promotion and salary increase back then. And he beats me every day. I really can't take it anymore. If this continues, I'll die." It turned out that after I left, Simon Baker was effectively forced out of his job and has been unemployed at home. His mother and he had constant conflicts at home. With her temper, whenever she got angry, she would storm off and go back to her hometown. Simon Baker had no choice but to clean up the mess at home all by himself. Although he didn't want to spend money on his daughter, she was with him, and he couldn't just let her starve to death, otherwise, he would be arrested and sent to jail after his mother-in-law left. He had no choice but to take care of his daughter, but he did everything reluctantly, cursing angrily, and eventually, he started resorting to physical violence. His daughter's situation did indeed tie him down and hinder his career. He blamed all the faults on his daughter, either hitting or scolding her, making her life miserable. My daughter has been looking for me, wanting to leave her father. I said, Lily, I really want to forgive you, but in both lifetimes, you chose your father and showed no concern for me. You once said you didn't want to inherit my bad genes, and that your father's genes were good. Now I think your gene theory is right. You carry the heartless genes of your father, and I will never accept you. My daughter burst into tears. I walked forward without looking back. While having a meal with friends at a restaurant, I ran into Caroline. She was following a middle-aged man, with a flattering expression all over her face. Someone had passed on the news of my return to Simon Baker. He rushed to the restaurant to find me and demanded that I pay child support. Simon Baker has become old, fat, and ugly, with thinning hair. I don't know how he's been living these past few years, ending up in such a state. Impossible. I've already paid the child support. I firmly refused and brought up the original agreement to argue my point. Simon Baker became emotional, grabbed a bowl, and threw it at me. I dodged it. The bowl flew towards Caroline, and she let out a startled scream. The man beside her immediately flew into a rage, cursing as he strode over and grabbed Simon Baker by the collar. Caroline rushed forward and slapped Simon Baker several times, cursing loudly, then gave him a hard kick before storming off. I took the opportunity to leave as well, secretly following Caroline. As expected, she's being the other woman again. Without hesitation, I told the man's wife about her actions. The legal wife was not as weak as I was in my previous life. She immediately gathered a few people and stormed over, punching and kicking Caroline, and even splashed boiling water on her face, disfiguring her. When a mistress is disfigured, her fate is predictable. Not only was she kicked out, but all her assets were also reclaimed, leaving her in debt. Simon Baker, unable to secure child support, went back and took his anger out on his daughter, beating her up after getting drunk. The daughter was already frail, and he drank heavily and had no sense of restraint, ultimately beating her to death. Simon Baker was arrested. Many people reported that he abused his daughter and refused to get her medical treatment. After the news spread, public outrage erupted, demanding a severe sentence. Simon Baker was sentenced to death. The mother-in-law's reputation was also tarnished. The father-in-law passed away early, and she only had one son. Now that she is old and waiting to be taken care of, her son has been sentenced to death. She wailed and cried, but no one felt sorry for her. Someone secretly dumped trash and splashed dirty water in front of her door, making it difficult for her to come and go. She had no choice but to return to her hometown. Her affair with Simon Baker was known throughout the village, and everyone looked down on them. The old woman lived alone for several years amidst the daily contempt of others, and eventually died on a winter night, only to be discovered long after. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.